Chapter 976. This little rascal is dead meat. Li Shijun frowned slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say it. However, Tang Huan's words had stabbed a sore spot on Xiaolu's body. She hated that she couldn't not use her sword to slice Tang Huan into pieces as she roared furiously, "Tang Huan, die!" Whoosh! Xiaolu flashed past Li Shijun's body, thrusting her golden sword forward at a terrifyingly fast speed. Kai kai kai! A sharp sound pierced through the air and resounded throughout the valley. In that instant, the vast space before Xiaolu was completely engulfed by the densely packed golden sword rays. The sword intent was like a raging storm as it swept across the air with a terrifying might. Wherever it passed by, the space twisted violently, as if it had been sliced into pieces. Big brother Tang Huan, be careful. Li Shijun's expression changed slightly, while Li Xiangjun couldn't help but exclaim out loud. At this time, the flames on the Absolute Yang Scarlet Scale sword in Tang Huan's hands had already started burning. The heat was condensed and did not dissipate, as if there was a terrifying volcano hibernating within the sword. The moment Li Xiangjun finished speaking, Tang Huan, the middle-ranking divine armament, had already moved. The enormous sword beam covered in flames whizzed forward like a waterfall. Wherever the sword beam passed by, even space itself seemed to be torn apart. The dazzling red light seemed to dye the world red. At this moment, the golden and red ores filled everyone's eyes. The wind and clouds suddenly changed color, causing their souls to tremble. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom! In a split second, the two sword beams fiercely collided. When the extremely powerful strength chi was forced to spread out, the clouds that gathered in the valley were as stable as mountains. There were no changes at all, but a terrifying storm seemed to have kicked up in the valley. Soon after, the massive, fiery red sword light exploded. It was like a dormant volcano had suddenly erupted, as if all the obstacles in the world had been thoroughly incinerated by the heat wave. The golden sword beams melted like snow under the blazing sun when they were touched by the heat wave. However, the layers of heat wave were also torn into pieces by the extremely sharp sword beams at the same time, and in less than a blink of an eye, the remaining hundreds of golden sword beams rushed straight at Tang Huan with the force of a hot knife through butter. Ho! Tang Huan shifted his footsteps, lowered his arms, and took the opportunity to sweep away the gigantic sword that had just been swung out. After an instant, the sword beams fell on the body of the sword. Bang! In the midst of the loud noise, the sword beam suddenly exploded, as if hundreds of meteorites fell from the sky at the same time onto the Absolute Yang Scarlet Scale sword. As though he had received a heavy blow, both of Tang Huan's arms became numb and his body instantly retreated dozens of meters. Following that, a sickly red color surfaced on his face. A Yang tribulation expert was indeed not a match for his current strength. Tang Huan, accept your death. The sword in her hand danced wildly like a golden snake, and the golden light that filled the sky grew larger and larger like snowballs rolling in the sky. After a moment, it had already expanded to a size of more than 10 meters, its momentum like that of thunder. Unstoppable. King, this brat is dead for sure. Dozens of meters away, Ji Feizu's eyes narrowed, and he couldn't help but laugh. He is only at the peak of Yuanying stage. For him to be able to block a strike from a Yang tribulation expert and not die, that is already a miracle. He won't be able to take Xiaolu's attack no matter what. Yu King smiled and a sharp light flashed across her eyes. The power of Tang Huan was indeed somewhat beyond her expectations. He thought that Tang Huan, the peak of the nascent level, would definitely die under the attack of Xiaolu. This kind of Yang tribulation expert. He never thought that he would actually be able to endure it. Now, although she felt that Tang Huan would not be able to withstand Xiaolu's second attack, she did not have a good opinion of herself. During the time of the pure Yang sword sect, Tang Huan had always been good at creating miracles. Now that he had created a miracle in the heavenly desolate secret world, it only took him a half a year to advance from the essence condensation realm to the peak. This was simply beyond his imagination. In this period of time, she had never seen anyone's cultivation speed being as fast as Tang Huan's. For someone like Tang Huan, How could he know that he could not miraculously save his life under the effect of the Xiaolu sword? He had to prepare something else. As she thought, Yu King quietly reached out and a faint fiery red chi appeared in her palm. Elder sister. On the other side, Li Xiangjun, who had already arrived beside her sister, saw that Tang Huan was in a bad situation, and Xiaolu continued to get closer. Li Shijun frowned. She had a hesitant expression on her face, as if she didn't know whether or not she should stop him. When the little girl's voice entered his ears, Li Shijun finally made up her mind. She slightly raised her delicate right hand, but just as she was about to slap out, the situation in the tens of meters in front of her changed. 9 spirits. Seeing that Xiaolu was approaching aggressively, Tang Huan suddenly shouted out, "Gaji!" As if listening to an imperial decree, the 9 spirits suddenly stood up from Tang Huan's shoulders, their mouths opened slightly, releasing an earth-shaking wail. Following that, a 9-colored stream of light shot out from their mouths, instantly filling the entire valley with an extremely strong sense of deathly stillness, causing the hearts of everyone around to tremble. Soul attack? It was simply, smile, huh? Xiaolu's mocking laughter came from within the rapidly tumbling golden ball of light. However, before she could finish speaking, the streak of 9-colored light had already entered the golden ball of light. Xiaolu's voice paused slightly as she exclaimed in surprise. Under the soul attack of the 9 spirits, although the soul of the Yang Calamity expert, Xiaolu's, was not damaged, his consciousness also became dazed for an extremely short period of time. However, this absent-mindedness did not affect Xiaolu's attack too much. It only paused for a moment before it continued to roll forward. In that brief moment when Xiaolu's consciousness became a blur, his attack was actually still able to remain unbroken. This was not something an ordinary cultivator could do, but to Tang Huan, this moment of absent-mindedness was enough for Xiaolu. The red light of the Absolute Yang Scarlet Scale Sword exploded and condensed into a fiery red stream of light which covered Tang Huan and the 9 spirits. After a moment, Tang Huan seemed to have fused with the middle-ranking divine armament with 9 spirits. Sword light flashed, and Tang Huan and his sword disappeared without a trace. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. In the next moment, the golden ball of light transformed into countless sword beams, and landed at the place where Tang Huan was previously at, the place where he stood. What's going on? He escaped? Didn't they say that we can't use this kind of method to escape within the Spirit Cloud mountain range? The exclamations of shock continued. No one was surprised by the terrifying scene that Xiaolu's attack had caused, but they were all dumbstruck by Tang Huan's sudden disappearance. Chapter 977, Giant Spirit. The Spirit Cloud Mountain seemed to be restricted by the laws of the heaven and earth, and couldn't travel too far to travel through space. The Tian clan's space-moving and blood spirit escaped skill and other kinds of escape parts could not be used, and the wings of the Tian claness and the Tian claness had also become a decoration. Here, the moment one's altitude exceeded 20 meters, they would be struck down by an invisible force. But now, Tang Huan seemed to not be affected in the slightest by the rules of the heaven and earth within the mountain range. Over there, just as everyone was bewildered, on a mountain several hundred meters away, the clouds suddenly began to churn rapidly as a brilliant red light flashed. It was a fiery red greatsword. Tang Huan's sword. Sis, big brother Tang Huan has escaped. Li Xiangjun's expression changed. Her eyes became crescent-like crescent moons, and she looked even more charming and adorable. Li Shijun lightly snorted in response, her beautiful eyes filled with deep doubt. Tang Huan. After a brief moment of shock, Xiaolu regained her wits, her eyes spitting fire and her pupils splitting. With a howl like that of a wounded beast, she chased after the source of the fiery red greatsword. In the blink of an eye, Xiaolu's figure had already disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Sure enough, Yu King whispered softly in a voice that only she could hear, and then she said, "Brother King, I'll go take a look." "King, I'll go with you." 2 figures, one in front and one behind, quickly disappeared. "Sis, Let's go take a look as well, Li Xiangjun asked worriedly. Why are we joining in the fun? Tang Huan is using the sword escape technique. Who can hurt him if he is able to do that in the Spirit Cloud Mountain range? Li Shijun coldly snorted. Let's go. After he had finished, he turned around and walked away with his clothes fluttering in the wind, as if he was taking a stroll. It made his figure appear even more graceful. Oh, Li Xiangjun dejectedly replied. She had no choice but to follow along. Tang Huan, Xiaolu, Ji Shu, Yu King, Li Shijun and Li Xiangjun all left one after another, leaving behind only the two groups of people. If it wasn't for the great change in the position of the two of them, it would have felt as if everything that had just happened had never happened. Run. After looking at each other for a long while, Luo Ming suddenly shouted. The dozen or so figures simultaneously chose a direction and ran away. Chase. Tu Lei and the others felt as though they had just awoken from a dream and chased after him. Tang Huan finally understood why he couldn't fly or use the space-moving or any other long-distance escape techniques within the boundaries of the Spirit Cloud Mountain range. The moment he merged into the air, Tang Huan could feel an irresistibly strong force surging out from the surroundings, as though it wanted to push him out. However, every time this happened, deep inside Tang Huan's soul, the god sculpting statue would emit a strange undulation, eliminating the power into nothingness. It was because of this that Tang Huan was able to smoothly execute sword escape. However, every time divine armament appeared, it would cause the clouds to churn. The reason why the spiritual cloud mountain had set up such a set of rules was to ensure the stability of this area when the god forging stage formed this heavenly desolate secret world. The spirit cloud mountain was formed entirely from white clouds. Walking on it was no different from walking on the ground, but if Tang Huan used an escape art, it would immediately cause the space to become unstable, so doing one or two people would not be a problem, but if there were people who did that from time to time, the spirit cloud mountain would probably have already collapsed. Whoosh! Divine Armament's absolute Yang Scarlet Scale Sword kept on flashing, bringing Tang Huan and the other 9 spirits along with it. Xiao's tracking speed was extremely fast, but unfortunately, it was still not as fast as the sword escape executed by the middle stage divine armament. Tang Huan did not stop. Under the guidance of the snakehead of the 9 spirits, he finally entered a deep valley. The fiery red great sword appeared again, floating in the air, and did not continue to escape. Following that, Tang Huan's black figure separated from the sword. Big brother, why would we run away? With your cultivation, fighting head-on is obviously not that guy's opponent, but don't you have me? I will use the giant spirit spell, and I guarantee that I will be able to make him cry for his parents. The 9 spirits laid on Tang Huan's shoulders, expressing their dissatisfaction while boasting. The so-called giant spirit was the kind of method that would cause the bodies of the 9 spirits to become huge. Just like Tang Huan's yin and yang void method, it was also a type of sacred art. However, Tang Huan's sacred art was something that he had learned the day after tomorrow. Its sacred art was an innate technique, just that its current power was too weak. If it was used once, there would be huge repercussions. Cough. Sensing that Tang Huan was looking at her with a strange expression, the 9 spirits coughed dryly. Alright, after I use my giant spirit sacred art, I will at most fight to a draw with that guy. But, there's no need to run like this. I can't win, but you, big brother, are still here. During my fight with him, big brother, you just need to find some time to use that Dao tool on him. He can easily use a Dao weapon in front of so many people. Tang Huan rolled his eyes. Most people would not be able to recognize that the 9 Yang Divine Furnace was a Dao artifact, but they were not afraid of 10,000. What they were afraid of was that if by any chance, no one could guarantee that Xiaolu, Ji Feizu, Yu King, and Li Shijun would be able to see 1 or 2 exceptions. If news of him possessing a Dao artifact were to spread to the forging god great world, then once he left the heavenly mystery realm in the future, he would definitely not be able to handle it. Everyone's eyes are on him. If we were to kill all those people, it would naturally not be in front of everyone's eyes. Jiu Ling grunted. Kill them all? Yet, you think you can think of something like that? Tang Huan glared at him snappily, and said, don't talk so much nonsense first. Xiaolu wouldn't let this go until he killed me. He would probably be able to track us down very soon. You should be familiar with this place. Find a hidden place and we'll hide here to have a good rest and replenish our energy. Saying that, the corner of Tang Huan's mouth raised into a meaningful smile. There shouldn't be so many outsiders watching over there. Big brother, you mean to say? The 9 spirits' eyes lit up, and then they began to laugh weirdly. Whoosh! After a long while, a tall silhouette suddenly appeared within the canyon. He wore a golden crown on his head, wore a golden robe, and held a golden sword in his hand. It was Xiaolu. Following the remnant she left behind by the giant red sword, he moved as fast as lightning, not stopping for a moment. After chasing them for such a long distance, his state of mind, which had been driven mad by Tang Huan and Li Shijun, calmed down a lot, but his face still remained as gloomy as ever. In exchange for revealing the location of the berserk beast that had injured Li Xiangjun, he was simply fooling around with this idiot. If this was tolerable, then so be it. Chapter 978, War Yang Tribulation 1. In a canyon nearly 100 miles wide, deep and shallow crevices could be seen everywhere. A fierce beast was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. It fell to the ground and twitched for a moment before it did not move again. From head to tail, a dark red line of blood shot out. This fierce beast was the special product of the spirit Cloud Mountain, the Cloud Beast. The Cloud Beast was completely snow white, like a cat but not a cat, like a tiger yet not a tiger, and its body was less than a meter long, compared to the majority of the ferocious beasts in this heavenly mystery realm. This kind of cloud beast could be considered small and exquisite. Before the cloud beast launched an attack, it could restrain its aura to the extreme. If it was hidden, it would be extremely difficult to be discovered, and the cloud beast loved to do sneak attacks in this way. Xiaolu had not been in the canyon for more than half an hour when he had already suffered more than 10 attacks. Although it was not damaged at all, Xiaolu's complexion was not very good. At the entrance of the valley, he actually did not feel the chi of Tang Huan's weapon. Generally speaking, that aura would appear once every few hundred meters, and now that it had completely disappeared, it meant that Tang Huan had stopped his sword darts of escaping. If Tang Huan hid himself, it would not be easy to find him by himself. Tang Huan, I will definitely kill you. Just as Xiaolu was about to move forward, her expression suddenly changed, and she became alarmed. As she crazily pounced forward, a ball of golden light exploded from her body, instantly forming a small golden round cover that covered his entire body. In the next moment, a red shadow attacked from behind with the speed of lightning, striking the golden round cover. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom! An earth-shaking ringing sound rose up as the incomparably powerful strength chi swept out from the point of collision, as if a terrifying hurricane had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The golden round cover was smashed into smithereens by the violent impact. Xiaolu, who was inside the round cover, was thrown 20 to 30 meters away as if he had suffered a heavy blow. Before crashing down, he staggered for another 10 steps before he managed to stabilize his body. Tang Huan. Without even thinking, Xiao knew that the one who had ambushed them was Tang Huan. But in this moment, what Tang Huan revealed caused him to be even more shocked. Firstly, Tang Huan was actually able to sneak up a few meters behind him without him noticing it at all. This was simply unimaginable. One had to know that even an emptiness realm expert wouldn't be able to do this. Secondly, the aura that the weapon Tang Huan had just used actually made his soul tremble. He could not help but have a strong urge to kneel down and worship her. Under the bombardment of the weapon, the protective item that he was able to defend against the all-out attack of the Yang Calamity expert had completely vanished into thin air, completely crumbling apart. Xiaolu was certain that the weapon that came from behind was not the fiery red greatsword that Tang Huan had used against him before. Although the sword's aura was terrifying as well, it was far from reaching this stage. Tang Huan was only a primal cultivator, How could he have such a weapon? Xiaolu took a deep breath in surprise and anger. She suppressed the surging blood in her chest and turned her body around at the fastest speed possible, causing a huge spike formed from what seemed to be flames to shoot over. A terrifying heat spread out crazily and the surrounding area started to burn up out of thin air. Behind the flaming pointed doll was that repulsive face of Tang Huan. Ha! While shouting, the long sword in her hand thrusted out like lightning. Hundreds of golden beams shot out, instantly condensing into a sword ray as thick as a thumb, and in an instant, it was already several meters in the air as it collided with a flaming pointed doll. Boom. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. Amidst the violent collision sound, the golden sword beam actually erupted with an unstoppable might. In an instant, it pierced through the flaming pointed doll's sharp end. However, after a moment, the flaming pointed doll's extremely ferocious spinning power dissipated, and at the same time, it exploded. The terrifying strength chi tumbled backwards, pushing Xiaolu back more than 10 steps. Opposite of them, Tang Huan had also only stabilized his body after fiercely retreating more than 10 meters. The area of 10 meters between the two was instead filled with a raging strength chi and heat. Tang Huan, what weapon did you use just now? Xiaolu's eyes were cold as she shouted out. After this attack, he realized that Tang Huan was actually using a fire-red long spear. Why do you need to know so much about people who are about to die? Tang Huan laughed. The effect of the Nine Yang Divine Furnace was actually stronger than he had expected. It had actually injured Xiaolu in an instant. Although Xiaolu looked fine on the surface, the injuries to his internal organs were definitely not light at all. Truly ignorant. Tang Huan, do you think that you can kill me just by relying on this despicable scheme? Xiaolu was so angry that she laughed instead. How would we know without trying? Tang Huan swung the spear in his hand and explosively shot forward. Kai. Xiaolu's sword pressed forward slightly, but just as it was about to pierce through the air, the force behind his sword changed drastically. He swept out with his sword, and a 10-meter-long Peng Shao sword light shot through the air like a golden waterfall. His body also turned along with the sword force, his eagle-like gaze quickly sweeping across, but he did not see Tang Huan's figure, and behind him, Tang Huan, who was brandishing her spear, was quickly dissipating. It was actually an illusion and Tang Huan's real body had already quietly disappeared. Xiaolu's face turned black, and like that, he could no longer feel any trace of Tang Huan's aura, as if Tang Huan had suddenly disappeared from this area. Not only could he hide his body, he could even restrain his aura to such an extent. What kind of battle skill did this fellow train in? With a quick thought, Xiaolu's vigilance reached its peak. She madly stimulated the true essence within her body, and an abnormally thick layer of true essence formed on the surface of her body. At practically the same time, he was also constantly adjusting his own posture and position, in case Tang Huan made a surprise attack. Gaji, in the blink of an eye, a bird's cry sounded and a small, colorful figure flashed into existence in a ravine several meters ahead of them. Whoosh! Xiaolu immediately recognized that it was the rainbow bird that was once resting on Tang Huan's shoulder, able to use soul attacks. She sneered in her heart, and reflexively shot forward, but as soon as she ran a few meters, her expression changed, and as expected, that terrifying weapon chi appeared behind her again. Chapter 979, War Yang Tribulation, 2. That aura was extremely fast. So fast that it could be said to be inconceivable. The moment it appeared, it seemed as if it would collide violently with Xiaolu's back, causing her to feel as if her entire body was about to be grinded into smithereens. In this moment, Xiaolu's heart was filled with rage. Roar! With a bellow like a wild beast, Xiaolu's protective layer of true essence expanded rapidly. This time, he didn't pounce forward like last time, but instead stabbed backwards with his sword. Bam! With a loud cry, the true essence barrier instantly shattered. Xiaolu was sent flying again as if she had been struck by a massive boulder. However, at nearly the same time, a violent golden storm swept forth. It was as if that storm was formed from countless sharp blades that were unstoppable. Plop! Xiaolu crashed onto the ground after traversing tens of meters like a cloud. PFFT. Xiaolu felt as if all the bones in her body had collapsed. Her internal organs had been crushed and the true spirit inside the Danshan had become much dimmer. Tang Huan's sneak attack just now had actually injured his true spirit. True spirit's injuries could not be healed easily. Xiaolu was surprised and angry at the same time. Just as he endured the waves of pain as he stood up, a loud sound came from behind him and following that was the powerful strength chi. He couldn't help but take a few steps forward before regaining his balance. He had never thought that the previous sword strike could threaten Tang Huan. His only goal was to stop Tang Huan from continuing his pursuit after launching a sneak attack. From the looks of the situation, his strike was right. However, after being successfully ambushed twice in a row by Tang Huan, his lungs had almost exploded from the anger. At the same time that he quickly turned around, an extremely resentful roar came from his mouth. Tang Huan, you despicable, shameless and despicable person. Despicable and shameless. Just as Tang Huan withdrew his 9 Yang divine furnace, his spear swept out and shattered that sharp golden storm. She heard Xiaolu's words and couldn't help but sneer. Compared to you, I'm far inferior. At the very least, after I pass through the Yang tribulation in the future, I will not chase after and kill a cultivator from the primal level. You! Xiaolu was so angry that her face turned red, and she shouted angrily, I chased you because you deserve to die. Tang Huan, what's next? You won't have any chance to sneak in a sneak attack. Today, I will make you die without a burial ground. As soon as she finished speaking, the golden sword in Xiaolu's hand moved, and instantly drew a dozen odd arcs in the air as a golden tide suddenly rose into the air and surged towards Tang Huan like a giant tide roaring from the 9 heavens above, exploding with an earth-shaking might. Tang Huan's pupils suddenly shrank. He was secretly shocked. The first time, he had used a 9 Yang divine furnace to launch a sneak attack and injured Xiaolu's internal organs. The second time, Xiaolu's internal organs were not only more severely injured, even the true spirit would probably be injured as well. Even so, Xiaolu's attack still possessed such terrifying power. It truly was worthy of being called a Yang tribulation expert. Kai. In the blink of an eye, the fire-red long spear in Tang Huan's hand had already swept out, and a blazing torrent that seemed to be condensed from flames began to move along with the spear's momentum. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. The sound of the whistle pierced through the air and a violent wave shot up to the sky. It was as if 2 waves that were flipped upside down were hitting each other fiercely. Countless golden and red lights sputtered out like splashes of water, followed by 2 unusually fierce strength chis that were flipped back, unexpectedly exploding with incomparable power, which shocked everyone. Tang Huan did not take it head-on, his body taking the opportunity to float and retreat. Gaji, tens of meters to the left, 9 spirits cried out in alarm. At the same time, Tang Huan let out a low cry, surprised that Xiaomabai's chi was actually flying far away at a breakneck speed. In an instant, it had already left his perception range. Under his astonishment, Tang Huan used the space moving and moved horizontally 100 meters. When he focused his eyes, he saw that there was no longer any trace of Xiaolu's figure. Instead, he could see a small golden dot shuttling back and forth at a distance of thousands of meters. In just an instant, it had completely disappeared from his line of sight. Xiaolu actually ran away. A Yang calamity expert actually chose to escape when faced with a PQ on Fu cultivator like himself? Didn't they say that they would make him die without a burial ground? The dignity of a Yang calamity expert was taken away. Tang Huan was instantly speechless. Xiaolu's sudden action had indeed greatly exceeded Tang Huan's expectations. However, in the midst of his surprise, Tang Huan was also rather curious. He was sure that Xiaolu's skill was not some kind of blood spirit escaped skill, but how could her speed reach such a level? This was at least twice as fast as when Xiaolu was chasing him. Gaji, 9 spirits flapped their little wings and flew over angrily. Big brother, That guy escaped. Should we chase? How could he? This is too embarrassing. Forget it. Tang Huan muttered to himself for a bit, then shook his head. With Xia Lu's current speed, even if he used the sword escape technique, it would be hard for him to catch up. More importantly, Xia Lu's battle just now had consumed at least 90% of his primeval essence. The rate at which his true essence was being consumed was simply terrifying. Of course, a large amount of this primeval essence was spent on the Nine Yang Divine Furnace. At the beginning, Tang Huan had never thought that activating the Nine Yang Divine Furnace to launch an attack would consume as much as 40% of his primeval essence, and it was also because his internal primeval essence was extraordinary that it could support him 2 attacks. If it was any other PQ Onying stage cultivator, they would probably run out of primeval essence at the first attack. What a pity. Tang Huan felt a little regretful that he couldn't keep Xia Lu. If the other primal cultivators heard Tang Huan's words, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Against Xia Lu, an expert of the Yang Tribulation, it was a blessing that a peak primal Taoist could keep his life. Not only had Tang Huan managed to preserve his life, he had also severely injured Xia Lu. This was a complete miracle. However, Tang Huan actually still wanted to leave Xia Yang behind. This caused many of the nascent soul cultivators, who could only desperately flee when encountering the Yang Tribulation expert, to wish for their parents to have more legs to live on. How could they endure this? If I help, I can definitely make him stay. Jiu Ling felt a little heartbroken. Big brother, if I encounter something like this again, I must make a move. Don't worry. There will definitely be such a chance again. Tang Huan laughed. However, before he could finish his sentence, the smile on his face disappeared as his eyes slightly narrowed. On the opposite side, 100 meters away, on the slightly protruding cliff, a slim figure flashed out. Her figure was alluring and her curves were graceful. She did not expect to catch up to him here. Chapter 980, 9 Souls. Keep alive. Whoosh! Yu Qing's body flashed like a ray of light, and in an instant, she was already less than 10 meters away from Tang Huan. A faint smile surfaced on her beautiful face. Tang Huan, I never thought that we would meet again so soon. Tang Huan squinted his eyes and sized up Yu Qing, his expression calm and composed. Indeed, I did not think. Yu Qing, how did you find this place? Here. It was at least several hundreds of thousands of kilometers away from the place where he had last used sword escape. From then on, Tang Huan never revealed any signs of qi. It wasn't surprising that Yu Qing was able to find her way here, but it was doubtful that she was able to find her way here so quickly and accurately. You don't need to know. In less than a year after entering the heavenly desolate secret realm, you have already grown to such a stage where even the Lingzhou sword sect disciple Xia Lu, who had reached the Yang Tribulation realm, was defeated by you and fled in a sorry state. It is indeed impressive. So that's how it is. After Tang Huan heard this, he suddenly smiled. Your lover did not appear together with you. It seems he has gone to chase after Xia Lu. However, since you dared to come here alone after seeing Xia Lu in such a sorry state, your courage is truly commendable. Tang Huan, for a Yang Calamity cultivator like Xia Lu, even if I were to lose to you, I would still be able to force you to use up your true origin and use all your trump cards. Hearing the 2 words lover, Yu Qing's eyebrows flashed with anger. The ridicule in her eyes became even stronger. Now, I'm afraid that even the most ordinary cultivator would be able to easily defeat you. Unfortunately, your experience in the heavenly mystery realm is about to come to an end. For a talented gem synthetic master and a talented weapon refiner to be about to die in my hands, it makes people excited just thinking about it. Finishing her sentence, Yu Qing's beautiful eyes that were like limpid autumn water were filled with a teasing look. Yu Qing, I really want to know, where did this confidence come from? Perhaps everything that happens next will make you even more excited, and I hope that you can continue to live on. Looking at this self-righteous woman, the corner of Tang Huan's lips slightly raised. 9 Spirit, keep him alive. Gaji, The 9 spirits flapped their wings and flew in front of Tang Huan excitedly. Its chance to show off had finally arrived. 9 spirits. Yu King was shocked at first, but then she laughed out loud. She had seen the little 9-colored bird beside Tang Huan back in the valley. Furthermore, when Xiaoyu had made its move against Tang Huan, the little bird had thought that Xiaoyu had once used a soul attack against Tang Huan in an attempt to help him. Right now, Tang Huan actually told the little bird to stop her. "Aren't you afraid of making me laugh my head off?" "Tang Huan, are you sure you're not joking with me?" Yu King smiled playfully. However, just as she finished speaking, that smile froze on her face as she caught sight of an angry Mind-Instrux. In a second. "Stinky woman, are you looking down on this daddy? Are you talking to me?" Yu King stared at Jiayu Ling and exclaimed in a low voice. This was the first time she had encountered a fierce beast that was able to communicate with cultivators through Mind-Instrux. In a second. To be able to do this, the soul of a vicious beast must be extremely powerful. That's right. Jiayu Ling was still extremely angry. "Stupid woman, watch how I CK you to death." Gaji. Before he finished his sentence, 9 spirits' body began to rapidly expand. In the blink of an eye, they had already grown to be nearly 20 meters tall and tens of meters long. Due to the limitations of the rules of the heaven and earth in the Spirit Cloud Mountain, its body couldn't grow as big as it used to be in its old nest. But even so, the 9 spirits were still quite large in size. His body was like a towering mountain. A terrifying sense of oppression spread out like raging waves in a grandiose manner. Standing in front of such a huge monster, even Yu King, who was at the peak of the Yin tribulation, couldn't help but feel a sense of insignificance. Where did Tang Huan find such a fierce beast? Just the body size of Peng Shuo alone was one thing. But what made one's heart palpitate was the extremely powerful deathly stillness that emanated from the body of the fierce beast. Covered in this intent, Yu King could even faintly feel the immense life force in her body slowly dissipating. At this moment, a bad premonition arose in Yu King's heart. Just a short while ago, she had spotted Xiaolu, who was fleeing at top speed. The Yang Prefecture's 9-star Holy Gate and the Heavenly Region's Ling Zhao Sword Sect were like fire and water. When they encountered such an opportunity, Ji Feizu would naturally not miss it and would immediately chase after them. The flying boat meant for her to wait for a while, but she did not stay where she was and instead went over by herself. According to her judgment, if the one who had heavily injured Xiaolu was Tang Huan, then Tang Huan's current strength should definitely not still be at his peak condition. With her power at the peak of the Yin tribulation, getting rid of this Tang Huan shouldn't be a problem for her. Tang Huan's previous reaction made her understand that she shouldn't have missed out on her judgment. However, she had never imagined that the multicolored bird by Tang Huan's side would actually be such a terrifying fierce beast. Even though the two sides had not fought before, she felt that her chances of victory were not high. She had always believed in her own hunch. Having been in the heavenly desolate secret realm for so long, she had relied on that hunch several times to avoid danger. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Yu King retreated without any hesitation. "Damned woman, don't even think about escaping." Almost at the same time, 9 spirits' huge sharp beak was back down from above like a huge mountain collapsing. Not only was it terrifyingly powerful, its speed was also extremely quick. Wherever it passed, a sharp cry dragged out, as if it could even tear a person's eardrums. Seeing that, Yu King's face changed. The speed of this ferocious beast called the 9 spirits was actually far beyond her expectations. No matter how fast she retreated, she wouldn't be able to catch the momentum of that beak. Moreover, she could clearly feel that the beak that was sinking contained an incomparable deathly aura. Clang! When that happened, Yu King did not hesitate at all. Her right hand gripped the sword hilt as she unsheathed her sword, releasing a condensed fiery red light that streaked across the sky like lightning, sweeping towards the beak, releasing a blazing and sharp sword intent that seemed to be able to destroy everything. In an instant, he had traveled over 10 meters. The tip of the huge beak pointed at the fiery red sword ray with the force of thunder. Bam! In the midst of the loud clanging sounds, the fiery red sword ray shattered with a loud bang, and a dense black chi roared out from the bird's mouth. In the midst of the huge clanging sound, the fiery red sword ray shattered, and a dense black chi roared out from the bird's mouth with a loud roar. In an instant, the surrounding light dimmed. Death Chi. Yu Qing's expression became even more unsightly, and the rate at which her life force was being drained suddenly increased. In between mind instructs, in a second, a dense amount of true essence surged out from her body, and instantly enveloped her entire body, preventing the death energy from eroding away at her life force. The fiery red longsword in her hand once again thrust upwards, as fast as lightning. Chapter 981. Energy bullets. Swish. The sharp and ear-piercing sound of the bird's cry pierced through the air. Countless sword lights soared into the sky and interweaved horizontally, instantly condensing into a huge fiery red sword screen, blocking the boundless aura of death that was pouring down in torrents. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. The sword screen shattered, and the aura of death swirled up. 9 spirits' huge mouth pierced through the strength chi and descended down. In an instant, they landed on Yu Qing's fiery red sword that had just reached its end. Bam! The sound was like a thunderclap, and the power was immense. Yu Qing snorted. The terrifying pecking power of the 9 spirits had actually passed through her body and reached her feet. A terrifying storm was born almost to the ground. However, not only did Yu Qing not feel lucky, she had an extremely unsightly expression on her face. Although she had managed to resolve the tremendous force that surged out of the sword in this way, the moment the 9 spirits' mouths touched the sword, she found it difficult to dispel the incoming death aura. The black aura quickly spread out along the sword's body and shrouded the sword in an instant. Damned woman! You have some skills. The 9 spirits roared and pecked again. Ho! At this time, Yu Qing clenched her teeth and lightly waved her hand. A small ball of white light shot out like a shooting star towards Jiayu Ling's mouth. It was a round ball about the size of a walnut. It was crystal clear, flickering with light, and its chi was concealed. It seemed to contain an extremely terrifying power. Be careful. Tens of meters away, Tang Huan, who was calmly watching the battle, could not help but let out a warning when he sensed that the ball was abnormal. Big brother, don't worry, look at this daddy. How am I supposed to take care of her? The 9 spirits carelessly sent their mind instructs. In a second, over. Their mouths didn't hesitate at all as they pecked at the white ball. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. Earth-shaking sounds suddenly erupted, shaking the entire gigantic canyon. The white ball exploded with a loud bang, and the boundless power contained inside gushed out like a volcanic eruption, wreaking havoc crazily. It was as if millions of kilograms of explosives had been detonated at the same time, creating an incomparable force of impact. Overlord's origin energy? Tang Huan frowned. The power was actually extremely familiar to him. Gaji! Jiayu Ling cried out in shock. Her head was lifted high in the air as she took several steps back to it. These few steps were just a few dozen meters away. Whoosh! Yu Qing did not hesitate and immediately dashed towards the distance like a shadow. But her heart was bleeding again. She had just used the origin energy bullets that she had brought into the heavenly mystery realm from outside. It was created by the Overlord energy condensed by the pure Yang sword sector anchors in the Heart Sword Stone Pavilion. Once it collided with someone intensely, it would detonate with a boundless might, causing even a Yang Tribulation Realm expert to be injured. She only had 2 of these elemental energy bullets. Not long ago, when he encountered a powerful Yang Calamity Vicious Beast, he used one of them to heavily injure it, and in the end, he completely killed it. His harvest was not small, and now he used the second and last one. She had originally wanted to use this energy bullet against a Yang Tribulation expert, but she hadn't thought that it would be used up so quickly. However, even if its heart was in pain, if it could escape successfully, it could still be considered as having accomplished a great achievement. However, when she caught a glimpse of the situation behind her, her heart dropped to the bottom and she felt a chill. Although the giant bird was blown back by the elemental energy bullets, it did not seem to have suffered much damage. Its body was so tough that it seemed to be far stronger than an ordinary Yang Calamity beast. Stinking woman, You're courting death." When Jiu Ling regained consciousness and stabilized her steps, Yu King was already 100 meters away. Although the 9 spirits were fine after being struck by her elemental energy bullet, they still suffered from a concussion. Numerous scratches appeared on their bodies, and fresh blood flowed out from the wounds. In all these years, other than being subdued by Tang Huan, it had never suffered such a huge loss and was immediately enraged. Gaji, with a screech, Jiu Ling frantically ran after him. With his huge physique, his speed was naturally astonishingly fast. After just a kilometer, the distance between Jiu Ling and Yu King had already closed to tens of meters. Almost without any hesitation, a colorful stream of light flew out from his mouth and crashed into Yu King's head. Although Yu King was also at the peak of the Yin tribulation, her soul was still not as strong as Xi Alu's, a Yang tribulation expert. After receiving such a soul attack, he immediately fell into a trance. Before this, although Xi Alu had been in a daze for a short period of time, her movements were not affected at all. Yu King's dazed state had also lasted for a short period of time, but in terms of time, it was several times greater than Xi Alu's. When Yu King came back to her senses, Jiu Ling's giant mouth was less than 2 meters away from her. At this time, Yu King had no other way. She madly circulated the true spirit, and all the true essence in her body instantly surged towards her back. An extremely thick barrier of fire rapidly formed, but she did not feel that it would be able to block the attacks of the giant bird. In an instant, Yu King's heart was filled with regret and anxiety. She was anxious that the flying boat would return in time. Bam! In the blink of an eye, the gigantic mouth of the 9 spirits fell into the fiery red barrier. This furious attack actually erupted with an even more terrifying power, and the fiery red barrier was immediately broken. The boundless strength chi struck Yu King's back, without the slightest trace of mercy, and this beautiful and graceful woman was immediately thrown away like a kite with its string cut. Plop! After traversing tens of meters in the air, Yu King fell heavily to the ground, blood spewing out of her mouth, and her beautiful face immediately turned as white as paper. Surprisingly, it was filled with an overflowing amount of power, with a power that was like a thunderbolt that struck at the heart. Death energy surged in his mouth, but just as the tip of his mouth was about to make contact with his body, he suddenly remembered Tang Huan's order to keep him alive. Although she had withdrawn most of her power, it was still too late. The mouth of the 9 spirits still landed on Yu King's chest, and a wave of death aura seeped into her body. Although the strength chi that was activated did not rip her to shreds, it still turned her dress into smithereens. A sharp pain came from her chest and Yu King couldn't help but let out a cry. She spat out another mouthful of blood and her consciousness slowly passed out. Suddenly, she vaguely felt an abnormally dense aura of death rampaging through her body, wreaking havoc in a frenzy. Her life force was continuously being eroded. Am I going to die? Bitterness spread from the corner of her lips, and uncontrollable remorse and despair surged out from the depths of her soul. Yu King's consciousness then completely sank, and in the last moment, she seemed to have heard Tang Huan's praise for the 9-colored giant bird. 9 spirits, well done. Chapter 982, Neil, Fishing. It was like he was in a trance. He didn't know how long he sank into the endless darkness. Yu King felt that her consciousness had finally returned and she couldn't help but slowly open her eyes. What he saw was a bright white. Looking at its shape, it appeared to be a cave formed by white clouds. You're awake? A clear voice suddenly sounded. Tang Huan. The unconscious Yu King woke up completely. Her memories suddenly flashed before her unconsciousness, and she immediately jumped in shock. In the next moment, a familiar figure appeared in front of her. At the cave entrance a few meters away, Tang Huan was seated cross-legged with a smile on his face. After looking up and down Yu King, Tang Huan praised her. Senior Sister King, your figure is not bad. After a blink of an eye, this inside the cave that was around 10 meters deep immediately emitted a sharp scream, as if it could penetrate a person's eardrums. Gaji, Jiu Ling, who was lying at the entrance of the cave, raised her little head as if she was somewhat disdainful of Yu Qing's actions. She then laid back down and went back to sleep. Yu Qing had already curled up into a ball. Her snow-white and tender face was so red that it seemed to be able to drip blood. She was extremely embarrassed and angry. Tang Huan, what did you do to me? Is there even a need to ask? A man and a woman alone. What do you think I can do? Tang Huan looked at her in ridicule. Yu Qing gritted her teeth as she stared at Tang Huan with incomparable hatred, as if she wanted to tear him into pieces. However, before she could finish her sentence, she was stunned. As a woman, she only felt a bit and knew that what she had imagined did not happen. Her innocence was still present and not tainted. However, the next thing she knew was that her heart was filled with doubts. She discovered that not only was the death aura in her body completely dispelled, the true spirit was also operating freely, and was not restricted in the slightest. This meant that she could still unleash a strong power, which made it hard for her to believe. Because of her brother's heavy injury to Tang Huan and the fact that Qilian had failed to discipline him multiple times, she couldn't wait to kill Tang Huan when she met him in this heavenly desolate secret realm. But Tang Huan, on the other hand, not only had he healed her, he had even let go of her innocence. She would definitely kill him if he was in her shoes. Even if she didn't kill him, she would cripple his cultivation base and humiliate him to her heart's content. Tang Huan, what did you do to me? Yu Qing was bewildered. Although her body was completely unharmed, she had a strong premonition that Tang Huan must have done something to her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed her to have such a strong power, and furthermore, she could vaguely feel that there seemed to be a strange connection between Tang Huan and herself. You really want to know? Tang Huan smiled as he looked at Yu Qing. Without waiting for her to speak, Tang Huan's eyes turned cold as he shouted in a deep voice, as you wish. Kneel down. Plop. Yu Qing's first thought was, how is this possible? However, the command that originated from her soul caused her to do the opposite action without any hesitation, immediately kneeling on the ground. This feeling of being completely out of control caused Yu Qing to be stunned. Moments later, panic exploded in her beautiful eyes. Put your hands down. Tang Huan growled again. Yu Qing's jade arms that were blocking her chest immediately drooped. She stared at Tang Huan in disbelief, her extreme shock making her completely lose face. Tang Huan stood up and slowly walked over, looking at Yu Qing who was kneeling in front of him. Tang Huan felt a lot of joy in his heart. In the Pure Yang Sword sect, Yu Qing was the eldest senior sister of the Fire Clan in the 7 parts of the Pure Yang. She was the strongest amongst the disciples of the Fire Clan. To Tang Huan, who had just joined the Pure Yang Sword sect, Yu Qing at that time was a powerful being who stood at the top. However, due to a coincidence, Yu Qing had become his enemy. Because she had attacked the Yin Tribulation, she did not personally deal with him. Instead, she allowed Qilian to do so. Responsible for this, if Tang Huan had not taken care of the situation properly and if not for his strength, he would have already lost his life to the Huang clan. Now, in this heaven origin mystic realm, although his cultivation couldn't compare to Yu Qing's, this eldest senior sister of the Fire Clan had already become his captive. Moreover, while she was unconscious, Tang Huan had also searched her soul and obtained many good things. For example, the method she used to track him and the method she had displayed while fighting against the 9 spirits. Senior King, congratulations, you will be my puppet from now on. Lightly lifting up Yu Qing's smooth and round chin, Tang Huan slightly smiled. The word puppet might sound a little unpleasant, but to put it in a better way, from today onwards, you are my man. Puppet. Yu Qing's beautiful eyes were fixed on Tang Huan, her expression sluggish, completely ignoring Tang Huan's humor. Now, the first mission I'm giving you is to fish. Help me catch a big fish. ... Whoosh! Within the gorge, a white figure flew like a shooting star. After a while, the person stopped at a small hill. He looked to be about 20 years old, had a handsome face, snow-white clothes, and a divine appearance. He was Zifeizu. His eyes quickly swept across the area, and he couldn't help but frown. But shortly after, his brows relaxed, his body flashed, and he jumped down the hill. He flew forward, and several hundred meters away, a slim figure shot over like lightning. In just a breath or two, the distance between the two of them was reduced to only a few meters. King Jifeizu laughed. The person who came was indeed Yu King. After not seeing her for a day, Yu King's dress had changed from pink to a fiery red. This was not surprising. After all, many people would bring a few sets of clothes to change after staying in the heavenly desolate secret realm for 3 whole years. Brother Ji, how's the situation? Yu King asked with a smile. She had already slowed down her footsteps as she gracefully walked over. In the end, I still allowed Xiao to escape. Jifeizu regretfully shook his head and sighed, but in an instant, he changed the topic. However, if he wants to recover and reach the peak of his recovery, he will need to recuperate for at least another year or more. Oh yeah, King. Where did you go just now? We went around the surroundings and met with a group of extremely powerful cloud beasts. They were slightly injured. Yu King forced a smile and shook her head. It was as if she was dragged into an injury. She let out a muffled groan and her delicate body involuntarily fell forward. Are you hurt? Upon seeing this, Jifeizu immediately became extremely nervous. He subconsciously extended his arm to support her delicate waist. But in the next moment, Jifeizu's expression could not help but abruptly change. Chapter 983, Yang Calamity Puppet. Bam! Without waiting for his hands to touch Yu King's waist, 2 jade-like palms pressed down on the belly of the flying boat. Hot primeval essence surged out like a dam breaking on waves, overwhelming the entire ocean. He only had time to let out a miserable cry before his body was sent flying into the air. He flew out of his control and landed heavily dozens of meters away, spitting out blood continuously. His abdomen was already charred black. King Yu. The flying boat could not believe its size. Ever since he met Yu King half a year ago, he had developed a deep admiration for her and began to pursue her with all his might. Even though the two of them hadn't truly become lovers yet, they were already close friends. He believed that as long as he worked hard for another half a year, he would be able to capture Yu King. He would never have thought that Yu King would sneak attack him without any warning. But soon, something even more unexpected happened. Kai. The sound of something tearing through the air was heard. Immediately following that, the flying boat sensed an abnormally terrifying heat blowing towards it. In this critical moment, he didn't have time to think anymore. He forcefully endured the pain, jumped up, and crazily revolved his true essence to form a barrier around his body. The snow-white longsword in his hand suddenly unsheathed and slashed backwards. Clang! Before the snow-white longsword even had the chance to be activated, the blazing strength chi had already arrived. In the midst of the clanging sound, the longsword immediately flew out, and the blazing strength chi enveloped his body like a hot knife through butter. Bam! The true essence barrier instantly vanished into thin air. The flying boat was like a meteor smashing into the horizon. Its body was once again thrown dozens of meters away, falling in front of Yu King's feet. In the time it took for 2 breaths, he had actually returned to his original place. However, in this one exchange, he had suffered a heavy injury. At this time, the true spirit had split open and his internal organs had shattered. Being attacked twice in a row had already made this elite Yin Tribulation Realm expert completely lose all ability to resist. The moment he landed, blood started to gush out from his mouth. King. Lying on the ground, the flying boat had a miserable appearance, letting out a low roar. Hug. A hint of guilt flashed past Yu King's beautiful eyes, but before she could finish her sentence, a slender black shadow suddenly appeared beside her, holding on to a fire-red long spear, her face full of smiles. Tang Huan. Jifeizu froze for a moment, his eyes spewing fire, as if he was trying to squeeze out these 2 words from between his teeth. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that the person who would ambush him for the second time would actually be Tang Huan, the Tang Huan that Yu King wanted to kill so quickly. How could they join hands? Good job. Tang Huan glanced at the flying boat and raised his left hand slightly, taking the chance to grab Yu King's waist and wrap her arms around it. Yu King subconsciously twisted her waist, but after a moment, she stopped struggling. You You too. Both of Jifeizu's eyes bulged, and his eyeballs seemed as if they were about to pop out of his eye sockets. Puff! It was one thing for Tang Huan and Yu King to have launched a sneak attack together, but to think that they were acting so intimately. What was their relationship? An intense feeling of hatred from being deceived gushed out from the bottom of his heart. Jifeizu spat out another mouthful of blood. Then his head tilted before he fainted. Ho! Tang Huan heaved a sigh of relief and released Yu King. Initially, he was worried that Jifeizu might not have any trump cards. After all, he came from the 9-star holy sect of Yangzhou, a super sect of the forging god Great World. Therefore, he purposely displayed an intimate attitude towards Yu King in order to provoke her, but the end result turned out to be like this. Gaji, Tang Huan had originally planned to ambush it, so that it could prepare for its third sneak attack. In order to leave the flying boat behind completely, Tang Huan had used 2 sneak attacks to finish off the flying boat. It was completely useless. Tang Huan smiled, and ignored the 9 spirits to satisfaction. He had come all the way from the Grand Zaya to learn more about the flying vessel, and he had finally acquired a celestial tribulation golem. The night was dark, and the Spirit Cloud Mountain seemed to be in shadow. On top of the steep mountain peaks, Tang Huan moved swiftly like a ray of lightning. Unknowingly, he had already arrived in front of a cliff that was over 100 meters tall. Big brother, we're here. On Tang Huan's shoulder, 9 spirits spoke out. Are you sure it's here? Tang Huan looked around, and then looked at the 9 spirits in shock. This was already the 6th day since Tang Huan's sneak attack on the flying boat. After using the puppet soul seal to control the Yang Calamity expert, the trouble caused by Tang Huan's sudden appearance this time was finally completely resolved. After releasing Jian, Sly, and the others to train and then send Yu King in the flying boat out to search for prey, Tang Huan planned to stay in the Spirit Cloud Mountain range for a while longer to find more cloud crystals to break through to the Yin Tribulation realm. With Tang Huan's current strength, he could definitely compare himself with the experts at the peak of the Yin Tribulation realm, but against an expert of the Yang Tribulation realm, it would be somewhat troublesome. After all, activating 9 Yang Divine Furnace would consume too much true essence. This time, he had successfully defeated Xiaoyu with the 9 Yang Divine Furnace. However, if not for the Holy Beast, 9 spirits, Tang Huan reckoned he would have to use the Yanzu Dragon Seal. Otherwise, he might really have capsized. However, if he could raise his cultivation to the Yin Tribulation realm, and meet an expert in Yang Calamity, even without using 9 Yang Divine Furnace, Tang Huan would be able to fight back. However, when Tang Huan revealed this thought of his, 9 spirits' smile became even weirder. Once he asked, Tang Huan finally understood what was going on. There was a time when the 9 spirits were bored and came to the Spirit Cloud Mountain to search for cloud crystals. They spent thousands of years searching for cloud crystals. The cloud crystals found were useless to him, so he hid them all. Thus, under the guidance of the 9 spirits, Tang Huan galloped without stopping across the Spirit Cloud Mountain range for nearly 6 days and 6 nights before arriving at the mountain where it was hiding the cloud crystal. However, this area seemed to be completely bare, with no place to hide the items. It's already been a few hundred years. You can't have forgotten, right? How is this possible, brother? Look at me. 9 spirits laughed out loud, and floated out from Tang Huan's shoulder. Both of his claws casually clawed at the cliff a few times, causing the clouds to disperse, revealing a narrow and long crevice that only one person could pass through. The 9 spirits fiddled with it a few more times, and the small cloud actually closed again. After walking along the crack for a few thousand meters, Tang Huan's eyes suddenly opened up. In a space with a circumference of a few hundred meters, there were actually countless palm-sized white objects scattered about. They were like clouds, glittering and translucent, like beautiful jade, and faintly emitted an extremely weak yet exceptionally pure energy aura. In an instant, Tang Huan's eyes blossomed with a breathtaking light. These were all cloud crystals. Chapter 984, Yin Tribulation. In the heavenly desolate secret realm, There was a direct ratio between opportunities and risks. There were many cultivators who lost their lives when they were careless. There were also many who obtained various fortuitous encounters and improved their cultivation. There were even a few who shone brilliantly in the secret realm. As time passed by, some of the more talented people became more and more well known. In the western part of the secret realm, a group of Tribulation Realm experts fought over a rare treasure called Star Moon Source Water, which resulted in a fierce battle. A woman defeated 2 Yang Calamity cultivators, killed 5 Yin Calamity cultivators, and obtained the Star Moon Source Water. The woman was surnamed Mai and was extremely beautiful. It was said that she was from the pure Yang Sword sect of the Yan state. In the boundless mountains south of the secret realm, 2 Yang Calamity cultivators had opened a demonic spirit world in a world within the heavenly mystery realm in order to gather enough soul energy. They had used some unknown method to attract all of the vicious beasts within the mountain range. Of the 2 people, one was a war clan ranker from the northern Cyan region of Forging God Great World, Zan Zhangkung, and the other was a demon clan tigerman and a tiger marshal who had come from the Great World's southwest demon region. In the northern part of the secret realm, in a bone-chilling region of ice and snow, hundreds of thousands of cultivators were hunting a group of strange vicious beasts called the Blue-Eyed Snow Scorpions. Unexpectedly, within the group of Blue-Eyed Snow Scorpions, there were a few that had already reached the Yang Tribulation Realm. At this moment, a woman in white who was passing by suddenly took action, easily killing the Blue-Eyed Snow Scorpion that had the strength of Yang Calamity. The white-clothed woman was actually the saint daughter of the Tian clan from the great northwest region of the Great World, Ji Jinzaiyu. It was said that her cultivation had already reached the peak of the Yang Tribulation. In the middle of the secret realm, outside of the central wasteland city, 2 people had set up a stage for a month, betting all sorts of treasures to invite the various sects to fight against the Yang Calamity cultivators. In a single day of battle, they actually did not lose a single battle, and those 2 people were impressively the disciples of Ling Zhao Sword Sect, Xiang Wenjuan, and 9-Star Sacred Sect, Nihong Chang. Mai Yingluo, Zan Zhangkung, Commander Hu, Ji Jinzaiyu, Xiang Wenjuan, Nihong Chang. These Yang Calamity experts were famous. In addition, there was another person that many other cultivators were familiar with. That person first appeared in the east of the secret realm. He had both the identity of a weapon refiner and a gem synthetic master, something rarely seen in the world. In the eastern wastelands city, a cultivator at the level of the Sky Origin stage had once killed a natal stage, causing the entire city to tremble. The last time that man had shown up, he had already arrived at the Spirit Cloud Mountain in the middle of the secret realm, and his cultivation base had already reached the peak of the Essence Realm. It was said that the Yang Calamity Realm disciple Xiaoyu had been heavily injured by him. After that, that person had disappeared without a trace, never to be seen again. It was rumored that the person was called Tang Huan, and just like Mai Yingluo, he was also from Yan State. There were still many cultivators with reputations like Tang Huan who had suddenly disappeared, such as the Yang Tribulation Realm 9-Star Sacred Sect disciple Ji Feizu, Xiaolu who had never appeared after being injured, and the extremely beautiful Ruyi Sect disciple Li Shijun who had some connections with Tang Huan. In the heavenly desolate secret realm, there were countless cultivators and many geniuses. Almost every moment, there would be people dying on no activity for a period of time. Very soon, people would forget about it. Tang Huan was completely unaware of the situation in the outside world. He had already stayed at the cave where the 9 spirits stored cloud crystals for an entire 3 months. He was not the only one there. Even Yu King, Ji Feizu, Jianfeng, and Shaling were all summoned by him. There were simply too many cloud crystals in the cave. Even with his speed, if he was alone, even when the heavenly desolate secret realm closed, he would not be able to refine all of them. Since that was the case, he might as well gather all of these puppets here for his cultivation. In the future, when they return back to their respective sects, to complete the mission that Tang Huan had assigned them, the stronger they were, the better. The continuous refinement of the cloud crystal had surprisingly good results. In just 2 months, Jianfeng, Zusong, Guling, and Ji Jianyan stepped into the primordial realm. Yu King, who was at the peak of the Yin tribulation realm, was on the verge of a breakthrough. As for Ji Feizu, who was already in the Yang tribulation realm, he had already reached the peak of the Yang tribulation realm. As for the 9 spirits, they summoned Peng Shuo's 9-colored spirit shell and entered it to focus on cultivation. It's about time. Tang Huan exhaled lightly, his gaze quickly sweeping across Yu King, Yu Feizu and the others who were all seated cross-legged. With a thought, he took out the Voidian grass from his spatial ring. In these 3 months, Tang Huan was not in a hurry to break through to the Yin tribulation. Instead, he borrowed the cloud crystal to continuously consolidate his cultivation. On the path of cultivation, above 3 levels was 3 levels of tribulation. The 3 tribulations were the Yin, Yang, and Void tribulations. Be it Yin tribulation, Yang tribulation, or virtual tribulation, they were all tribulations that originated from the heart. For example, this Yin tribulation was where the heart demon transformed into the coldest Yin energy, starting from the true spirit and moving to the soul. If one couldn't withstand it, then they would be turned to dust in this disaster. Many of the cultivators at the peak of the natal realm talked about the Yin tribulation, causing their expressions to change. However, Tang Huan did not have such a feeling. Forget about the Voidian grass in his hands. Just the spirit creation divine statue and the intangible Buddha in the depths of his soul was enough to allow him to easily pass through the Yin calamity. For him, as long as he reached the level of cultivation, stepping into the Yin tribulation realm was a piece of cake. After a moment, Tang Huan still decided not to waste such a rare treasure like Voidian grass. After he returned it to the Sumeru magical ring, Tang Huan only had a slight thought, and the true spirit began to tremble in a strange rhythm. An extremely dark and cold energy surged out of the depths of the true spirit, formless, yet it emitted a bone-piercing chill. In the next moment, a layer of frost condensed on the surface of Tang Huan's body, and in the next 2 breaths of time, Tang Huan became an ice sculpture. An even colder chill swept out in all directions, instantly awakening Yu King and the rest who were cultivating. Upon seeing this, Lin Fan, Rong Hai, and the others immediately understood what was going on. Their faces were filled with envy. Ji Yu and Yu King looked at each other with complicated expressions. Now that he understood the truth of what happened that day, he felt resentment towards Yu King, but he no longer had any thoughts of pursuing her. Yu King originally only saw him as a friend, so she naturally wouldn't have any thoughts in that regard. Even life and death were in the hands of others. So why talk about love? How could he not laugh? At this moment, the two of them had a hidden hope in their hearts that Tang Huan would fail his Yin tribulation. If that happened, they might be able to escape their control. Gaji, a voice woke everyone from their stupor. It was the 9 spirits who had separated from the 9-colored spirit shell. In the next moment, everyone discovered that the frost on Tang Huan's body seemed to be melting as the terrifying aura whizzed out from his body. Chapter 985, The Present Heavenly Dipper Realm. 1. He passed the Yin tribulation so quickly, whether it was Yu King, Luo Fangzhu, Jian, or Guling, they were all dumbstruck. Their eyes were filled with a strong sense of shock. From the beginning of the Yin tribulation, it had only been a few breaths of time, and Tang Huan had already successfully transcended the Yin tribulation. Yin calamity, Yang calamity, Void calamity, they were all tribulations of the heart demons. Wasn't it extremely dangerous? Many cultivators, even if it were 10 days or half a month, or even months, they would still be immersed in the Yin tribulations, unable to break through. In this process, from ancient times till now, countless of cultivators at the peak of the natal stage had died, but Tang Huan had already passed through in the blink of an eye. Oh, indeed. After a moment, from what the crowd felt, the horrifying aura started to soar. Tang Huan had already stepped into the Yin tribulation realm. After the extreme shock had passed, the faces of the cultivators who were initially controlled by the puppet soul seal were filled with emotion. Not long after entering the heavenly desolate secret realm, they had started to follow Tang Huan, and witnessed the entire process of Tang Huan's strength rising rapidly. from the initial level of the origin condensation stage, to the peak of the sky origin stage after refining the spirit origin treasure tree, then to the origin realm in Eastern Wasteland City, then to the peak of the spirit cloud mountain, and finally to the Aeon Tribulation realm of the Three Calamities. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the speed at which his cultivation increased was a miracle. Compared to them, Yu Qinggan Flying Boat thought more. With Tang Huan's speed of breakthrough, he could definitely surpass them before the Sky Origin secret realm closed, and he could not get rid of Tang Huan's control right now. In the future, when Tang Huan's cultivation became even stronger, they would have even less hope of obtaining freedom and would be puppets for all eternity. Thinking about this, their hearts were filled with endless sorrow. Very quickly, that aura had already risen to its limit, and the undulations from that aura had also gradually calmed down and calmed down. Tang Hua took a light breath, and slowly opened his eyes. Congratulations, you have stepped into the Aeon Tribulation realm. The 9 spirits fart flew over. It's just a Aeon Tribulation, not worth mentioning. Tang Huan laughed, with an indifferent expression, just as he had expected. With the God-forging statue and the intangible Buddha guarding him, even if he didn't use the Void Yin grass, it would still be a piece of cake. Big brother, it really is big brother. 9 spirits began to flatter her. Hearing this, Jianfeng and the others who had never experienced Aeon Tribulation were speechless. The two people, Yu Qinggan Flying Boat, on the other hand, were bitterly smiling inside. Thinking back then, in order to pass through the Aeon Tribulation, they were being cautious. They were completely prepared, afraid that some accident would cause them to fail and lose their lives. Tang Huan laughed, then called out 9 Yang Divine Furnace in front of everyone's eyes. He extended his hand and grabbed, and a large amount of cloud crystals flew over, directly into the cauldron. After absorbing the large amount of Law of the Tao from the 9 spirits, the cauldron had grown several times in size. After filling the cauldron to the brim, with a thought, Tang Huan kept it. This was the new effect of the transformation of the 9 Yang Divine Furnace. Everyone's expression were wooden. They were already used to this, and had not been surprised at all. In this period of time, Tang Huan had done this many times within the inside the cave. In terms of the speed at which they were refining the cloud crystal, even if all of them added up, they could probably only be compared with Tang Huan alone. If it wasn't for Tang Huan wanting to use the cloud crystal to strengthen his cultivation, he reckoned that he would have reached the Aeon Tribulation realm 2 months ago. Of course, the more powerful one's cultivation was, the stronger they would be after breaking through. According to their estimates, Tang Huan, who was already at the Aeon Tribulation realm, even if he did not use any sneak attacks, he would still be able to fight with a Yang Tribulation expert, and might even win. After that, Tang Huan closed his eyes and concentrated. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Buzz! The agitated trembling sound suddenly reverberated in this vast space, like a thunderbolt, causing one's eardrums to vibrate. Tang Huan, Yu Qing, Ji Shu, Jianfeng and the rest all came back to reality. In the next moment, everyone's eyes were on the flying boat. On its chest, a large mass of dazzling white light exploded and enveloped it. Soon after, a white jade seal floated out from his chest. It was about the size of a palm and had a hole in it. It was shaped like a ring, and there was even a small hole in the ring. This was the Heavenly Dipper technique. The Heavenly Dipper realm is about to open? Tang Huan's mind slightly stirred, and then immediately became excited. He already knew that the flying boat had the Heavenly Dipper incantation, but he didn't take it away. With the Heavenly Dipper incantation, 1 piece was more than enough. Even if he had more, it wouldn't be of any use. Rumble. In that moment, Tang Huan sensed that something was amiss within the Sumeru magical ring on his right hand. As he thought about it, 2 balls of white light flashed out. What Tang Huan took out were 2 pieces of the Heavenly Dipper incantation. Right now, Tang Huan had 2 Sumeru magical ring. One of them belonged to his mother, and the other was from the Fan Tao who had tried to kill him. As for the Heavenly Dipper incantation, there was a piece of it that was also found in Fan Tao's Sumeru magical ring. Take it. Tang Huan swept his gaze across the crowd, then raised his right hand, and one of the Heavenly Dipper incantation floated towards you, King. Amongst the golems, the strongest was a soul of the 9 spirits. However, there was no need for it to go to the Heavenly Dipper realm. That undead phalanx was more than enough for it to eat. After the 9 spirits came the flying boat that already possessed the Heavenly Dipper technique, and after it was the peak of the Yin tribulation. You King. The extra Heavenly Dipper incantation was naturally the most suitable for him. Here, give it to me? You King found it hard to believe her eyes. Before entering the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm, she had known what the Heavenly Dipper incantation was. However, after getting acquainted with the flying boat and obtaining a lot of information related to it, she naturally knew how precious it was. Now that Tang Huan had passed the Heavenly Dipper incantation to her, even if she knew about her own puppet earlier, she would still be indescribably excited. 3 balls of dense white light covered Tang Huan, Yu King and the flying boat. Almost at the same time, the various parts of the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm also began to buzz as balls of white light burst out from the cultivator's body, dazzling them. Each ball of white light represented a Heavenly Dipper incantation. When all 36 streaks of white light appeared, all the possessors of the Heavenly Dipper technique discovered that the gap in the Jade technique was rapidly closing. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. The moment the gap closed, the Jade seal suddenly expanded at a high speed by tens of times. Immediately after, an extremely dense white-colored odor rose out of the hole in the center of the Jade manual. Like a pillar of smoke, it pierced through the layers of obstruction and soared to the sky. Chapter 986, Current Heavenly Dipper Realm, 2. 1,000 meters up in the sky, 36 thick, snow-white streaks of light shot across the sky, converging from all directions towards the same location. Wherever the long rainbow passed, terrifying waves of energy spread out crazily. In an instant, the entire Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm was shocked. Whether it was the cultivators who were cultivating or fighting wild beasts, everyone raised their eyes. Everyone, what is that? FCK, I'm scared. What happened? Could it be that something unexpected is about to happen? In every corner of the secret realm, shouts rang out. Countless cultivators were bewildered and uncertain. There were also a small number of cultivators who immediately guessed what was going on. Looks like the Heavenly Dipper realm is about to open. At the peak of a mountain in the northern part of the secret realm, a young man who was sitting cross-legged on the ground stood up and muttered to himself, "So many years have passed, and I finally have an owner for all 36 Heavenwind arts. How could he miss such an opportunity?" Now, let's return to the Western Wasteland. Sis, the Heavenly Dipper realm is about to appear. In the center of the secret realm, in a valley shrouded in clouds and mist, a delicate voice suddenly rang out. The one who spoke was a petite girl in a red dress. "Woo. It's fine if we don't want to join in on the liveliness. The opportunity that we've obtained now isn't necessarily worse than those who possess the Heavenly Dipper incantation." A clear and cold voice came from the side. It was a beautiful purple-clothed girl that spoke with a deep voice. "Don't be distracted, continue cultivating." "Oh." The young girl in red lightly nodded her head and closed her beautiful eyes. The valley immediately fell into silence once more. They were actually the sisters Li Shijun and Li Xiangjun. Haha, Heavenly Dipper Realm. In the west of the secret realm, in the middle of the hot, surging yellow sand, a burly, demonified man waved his huge blade and knocked away a giant snake that was pouncing towards him. He laughed maniacally and said, "I never thought that I would have the chance to enter the Heavenly Dipper realm even hundreds to thousands of years ago." Stop. To the south of the secret realm, 2 young men who were engaged in a fierce battle shouted at the same time as they simultaneously retreated 10 meters away. The opening of the Heavenly Dipper realm is an opportunity that cannot be missed. We'll decide life and death once we get out. How about that? Good. It's exactly what I want. The 2 figures quickly left. This is the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm, the most mysterious realm. What does it look like? On the roof of a crude-looking wooden house in Eastern Wasteland City, in the eastern part of the secret dimension, a beautiful young woman suddenly muttered. Similar scenes were playing out throughout the heavenly desolate secret world. In the Spirit Cloud mountain range, inside the cave that was filled with crystals, under the gazes of everyone, Tang Huan, Ji Shu, and Yu King, who were wrapped in dense white light, rose into the air along the smoke pillar. Their speed grew faster and faster, and after a while, disappeared along with the smoke pillar. The 36 pillars of smoke carried the 36 cultivators as they shuttled through the air at a frightening speed. In every corner of the secret realm, the white streak of light flew across the sky like a meteor and disappeared without a trace in an instant. However, not long after, 5 more dazzling white streams of light simultaneously rose from a certain area and shot towards 4 different cities. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. In central desolate city, a thick stream of white light suddenly poured down and landed in the center of the city. For a time, the city shook. Countless cultivators within the city looked over in surprise. Their line of sight were all filled with a dazzling white light, making it difficult to force their eyes to look at it. After about 10 breaths' time, the dazzling white light finally dissipated. Everyone suddenly woke up from the shock and madly ran away. In the blink of an eye, a white square platform appeared in the open space in the center of the city. It was about 1 meter in height and 10 meters in length and width. The round platform seemed to be carved out of jade, and the interior of the platform was filled with flowing lights, filled with an incomparably majestic spirit. The teleportation portal first appeared in central desolate city, then the western wasteland, southern wasteland, northern wasteland, and eastern wasteland. This is the teleportation platform of the Heavenly Dipper realm. A loud laughter suddenly sounded from within central wasteland city. Everyone, I'll be leaving first. Under the gaze of everyone present, a tall man walked up onto the stage with large strides. With a flash of white light, his figure disappeared without a trace. Heavenly Dipper realm, is it the same as the demon spirit world, the world within this heavenly desolate secret realm? He disappeared. Looks like this really is a teleportation station. There's no such thing as fate or fate in the Heaven's Dipper realm. Come, let's set off together. Let's not waste any more time. In the 5 great desolate city, all sorts of voices rose and fell. Some cultivators were hesitant, but there were more and more cultivators who jumped onto the platform at an extremely fast speed and were then quickly transported out. At this moment, in the southwest region of the heavenly desolate secret realm, amidst the vast mountains, an enormous square platform that was roughly 2 meters tall, 100 meters long, and 100 meters wide slowly descended from the skies, and the towering ancient trees below were transformed into dust. This square table was shining and shimmering. In the center of the stage, a whirlpool with a radius of dozens of meters was rotating. Within the whirlpool, there seemed to be the words Heavenly Dipper. This was the entrance to the Heavenly Dipper realm. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. The moment Peng Shuo landed on the square platform, balls of white light continuously burst forth, revealing numerous silhouettes. When the first person charged into the whirlpool, the rest of the cultivators followed suit and entered the whirlpool. This Heaven Dipper realm had 2 inner and outer layers. As the numerous cultivators entered the outer layer, 36 figures were gathered in the misty white space. This space was not big, it was elliptical in shape, with the widest part being about 200 meters wide, and the narrowest part being about 100 meters wide. Within the space, there were no flowers, grass, trees, or lofty mountains. There was only a beautiful lake. Within the lake, the accumulated lake water actually had a red, yellow, green, black, and white luster. Above the lake, there was a white arch bridge. It was sparkling and translucent like jade, sparkling like water as it circulated unceasingly. The lake was about 50 meters in radius, situated in the center of the space. Except for a small clearing at the head and end of the bridge, All the other areas were occupied by the lake. The inner space of this Heavenly Dipper realm was completely different from the outer space. The external environment was extremely similar to the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm. Any cultivator in the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm could enter and search for all kinds of rarer treasures. There was nothing else in this inner layer other than a lake and a bridge. The 36 cultivators who possessed the Heavenly Dipper technique would be directly transported to the inner layer. To these 36 people, this lake and bridge was a test. They only had one thing to do, and that was to walk over this bridge. As long as they successfully crossed the bridge, they would be able to obtain a great harvest in outer space that far surpassed the Heaven Dipper realm. Chapter 987, My Ying Luo. At this moment, the space was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. No one said anything. No one led the way to the White Bridge. Everyone looked around at the cultivators who were about to participate in the test. Most of the cultivators had extremely powerful auras seeping out of their bodies. 36 people, 4 primal cultivators, 12 yin tribulation cultivators, and 20 yang tribulation cultivators. Tang Huan's mind raced. The extremely strong perception ability allowed him to instantly grasp everyone's cultivation as if it was within his palm. Most of the cultivators who were brought here by the Heavenly Dipper technique were in the Tribulation realm, especially the Yang Tribulation realm. There were only a few cultivators in the Origin realm. However, in order to obtain the Heavenly Dipper technique, besides having a formidable strength, luck was also a very important factor. Thus, it was not surprising for it to appear as a Yuan Dan stage cultivator. If that Jian's Heavenly Dipper incantation hadn't been snatched away, when he entered, his cultivation should have also reached the advanced Yuan level. After understanding the situation, a voice broke the silence. There's no time to lose. Since none of you plan on crossing the bridge first, then let me, Lion Pavilion, explore the way for all of you. A burly, lion-headed Yang Calamity cultivator swept his gaze across the crowd and laughed loudly before leading the group onto the White Bridge. Brother Lion, I, Xiang Wenxuan, am here to accompany you this time. A tall and handsome man in white clothes laughed loudly and stepped onto the White Bridge as well. Good. Let's see exactly what's so miraculous about this astral bridge apostrophe. A few more figures stepped onto the White Bridge. Just as Tang Huan was about to move, his expression suddenly changed, and in the blink of an eye, he saw a figure walking over. It was a young lady in her 20s. Her eyebrows were like spring, her eyes were like autumn water, her nose was straight, her cherry lips were red, and if she were to take them out individually, they were not necessarily beautiful, but when paired together, they formed a beautiful face, filled with elegance. This woman was wearing a white dress, and there were many red plums proudly blooming on her dress. On her head, her long black hair was tied up into a beautiful bun, and she gracefully walked over 10 meters away. Junior King, how have you been? However, between her brows, there was a hint of pride and aloofness. I originally thought that we would only meet after leaving the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm. Never did I expect that I would meet Junior Sister here in the Tangang realm. Greetings, Senior Apprentice Sister. Yu King smiled, an undetectable bitterness in her brows. This woman was superior in every aspect, and she had once been the target that she wanted to pursue with all her might. At one time, she was also very confident, but now that they had met at this place, the strong sense of loss in her heart caused her to feel a little ashamed. As if she had sensed Yu King's change, the woman in the white dress was quite surprised. However, she only nodded slightly and didn't pursue the matter to the bottom. Are you Sister Mai Ying? Tang Huan's heart was moved, and he suddenly asked. Exactly. The lady in white nodded. I am Tang Huan. Greetings, Senior Sister. Tang Huan cupped his hands and smiled. Although she did not follow the rest of the group that day, she did not miss the chance to enter the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm that was only seen once every 50 years. Now, she had already entered the Yang Tribulation Realm. There were only 36 people in all, and the Yin State's pure Yang Sword sect actually took 3 spots. You are Junior Brother Tang Huan? Mai Ying Luo was stunned for a moment, surprise showing in her eyes. After all, He was a tools method genius with both the gem synthetic master and weapon refiner identity. However, according to what she knew, when Tang Huan left the sect, he had just stepped into the essence condensation realm. Tang Huan? That gem synthetic master and that weapon refiner? After disappearing for such a long time, I thought that his soul had already dispersed. I never thought that not only would he still be alive, he would even be in the inner layer of the Heavenly Dipper realm. There were quite a few people around who had clearly heard of Tang Huan's name, and their gazes towards Tang Huan were immediately filled with surprise. Since they were both cultivators of the gem synthetic master, it could be said that they were extremely rare, and in the Heavenly Desolate secret realm, there was probably only one. I've long heard that junior brother Tang Huan's cultivation speed is extremely fast. Seeing it today is indeed the case. After a while, Mai Yingluo's expression returned to normal as she smiled. Senior sister is flattering me. Before Tang Huan could finish speaking, 2 exclamations of shock could be heard. The other people on the White Bridge were shocked and subconsciously stopped their steps. However, in the next instant, cries of surprise rang out again as they had already entered the footsteps of the 2. After falling into the lake, there was an invisible force that pushed back Shi Ting and the others. In the process, they seemed to have suffered a great deal of pain, and their faces were all twisted with malevolent expressions. Just after enduring for a moment, one of the Yin Tribulation Realm cultivators couldn't help but cry out. This sound quickly spread to the others, and within the lake, miserable screams immediately filled the air. Fortunately, they didn't go too far. Soon, they were washed back to the shore by the lake. Once they climbed up, Lion Ting and the others lay motionless on the ground as if they had collapsed. However, there was no trace of water on them. Witnessing the entire process of them landing on the shore, the bridgehead immediately became silent. An unconcealable seriousness appeared on the faces of everyone present. Mai Yingluo seemed to have lost all interest in talking, and nodded slightly towards Tang Huan and Yu Qing, then stepped forward. Her slender waist and graceful figure, as well as the other cultivators who were initially interested in Tang Huan, had their attention diverted. Dangang Bridge. Shi Ting, Xiang Wenjuan and the rest had only walked a few meters on the bridge before they fell into the lake. The entire White Bridge was around 100 meters long, so one could easily imagine how difficult it was for them to walk from the top of the bridge to the bottom. However, since they had come here, they couldn't just keep watching. Otherwise, even if the Heavenly Dipper realm closed after a year, there wouldn't be any gains made. Very quickly, several more cultivators stepped onto the White Bridge. Tang Huan was also moved, but just as he took a step forward, a clear and melodious voice that sounded like the cry of an oriole came into his ears. Brother Tang, Chapter 988. Invitation from the Holy Maiden of the Tian clan. A tall woman quietly came to Tang Huan's side. She was dressed in snow-white clothes, and looked to be around 20 years of age. Below her crescent moon-like eyebrows, there was a pair of excessively large eyes, which were both round and bright, as if there were 2 lakes rippling inside. Such a pair of beautiful eyes paired with her oval face that was as white as ice and snow, tender as cream, appearing incomparably coquettish. Behind her head, there was a head full of black hair that was astonishingly long. It actually covered her waist and buttocks. Like a waterfall, it cascaded down, causing her to feel a bit more elegant amidst her charm. You are looking at this beautiful lady in white who looked nothing like Yu Qing or Mai Yingluo. Tang Huan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise, but right after, his heart moved slightly. He sensed a very familiar aura from this lady in white. She was from Tian clan. In that moment, Tang Huan faintly understood why she suddenly came to look for him. She could also have sensed the Tian clan bloodline in his body. I am Jizayu. The white-clothed woman smiled sweetly. So she is the holy maiden of the Tian clan. With that thought, Tang Huan immediately smiled. In the memories of Sai Ling and the others, there was the name Ji Jingxiu. The previous holy maiden of Tian clan was his mother, Jir Yu Ian, and this time, the previous holy maiden was Ji Jingxiu. Her cultivation was extremely powerful, and if one were to judge from her aura, She was even above my Yingluo. She was already at the peak of the Yang tribulation. I didn't expect Brother Tang to have heard of my name. Her eyes moved about so much that it seemed as if her veins were overflowing with water. This sort of natural charm, which appeared naturally, was even more captivating to the ears. When a few men at the side saw her actions, their eyes immediately revealed a peculiar light. Tang Huan laughed and then asked, "I wonder what business does Miss Jin Ziyu have with me?" "Brother Tang, you think that you possess half of the Tian clan's bloodline," Ji Jin replied with a smile. Hearing her words, Yu King and Yu Feizu could not help but look at each other in surprise. Before this, they had always thought that Tang Huan was a human clan with pure blood. "That's right." Tang Huan nodded. He did not deny it. In Forging God Great World, the history of the existence of the Tian clan was very long. Over the course of countless years, a large number of Tian clan and other races had formed an alliance, and it was not unusual for them to possess the Tian clan bloodline. Sure enough, his voice was sent into Tang Huan's ears, and without any sound, he said, "There are a lot of cultivators with half of the Tian clan's bloodline, but even if they can cultivate magic, it would be extremely difficult for them to learn it, and even more so, it would be impossible for them to condense wings. But if my sister feels that it's not wrong, not only is Brother Tang well versed in various types of magic, he can even condense wings." "How do you know?" At this moment, Tang Huan was truly a little shocked. Ji Jin Ziyu could even see these things. She was truly the holy maiden of the Tian clan. Heavenly Core Pearl. Ji Ziyu's lips moved slightly as she slowly spat out these three characters. "How do you know?" Tang Huan's mind was shaken. A wave of killing intent immediately spread out from the depths of her soul. The matter of him fusing with the heavenly heartbeat was something that only a few people in the small world knew about, such as the Tian claness, Great Elder Mu King and a few others. If this news were to leak out, his identity might get exposed, and he might be chased by the entire Tian clan. Ji Jin Ziyu did not sense Tang Huan's extremely well-hidden killing intent and laughed. "The Heavenly Heart Pearl is a sacred artifact of the Tian clan. Any holy maiden of the Tian clan can feel its aura." His voice paused slightly, and Ji Jin Ziyu looked at Tang Huan with a bit of lament. Tens of thousands of years ago, the great world's southwest spirit state changed drastically, and our Tian clan suffered heavy losses, causing us to lose our heavenly heartbeats as well. After that, our Tian clan had sent people to the current Li province and even the entire world to search countless of times, but to no avail. I never thought that Brother Tang would actually be able to obtain it and successfully merge with it. Tang Huan did not say anything, but his thoughts raced. Tian clan didn't seem to know that the heavenly heartbeat had drifted to an infinitely distant small world, and he also didn't know that the branch of the Tian clan still existed there. In the future, when we're out of the heavenly desolate secret realm, if Brother Tang is free, you might as well come to the northwest region. A smile appeared on Ji Jinxiu's charming face. "Brother Tang, don't worry." Since the Heavenly Heart Pearl had already been merged by Brother Tang, this meant that this was heaven's will. The Tian clan would never take it back from Brother Tang's hands again. If Brother Tang is able to come to the Great Yu State, for Brother Tang, this is definitely an enormous opportunity. "Thank you for your goodwill, Lady Embroidery." Tang Huan smiled indifferently. However, the Moon Slaughter Devil Sovereign is in the northwest of the Great World and the Yan State is in the southeast of the Great World. "It's fine, it's fine." Ji Jin Ziyu shook her white and tender hands and smiled. "It's very difficult now. In the future, when Brother Tang steps into the virtual level, it will naturally not be difficult. No matter when Brother Tang is coming, as long as you're here, that heavenly great opportunity will definitely be yours. In that case, I must go to the northwest region of Taizhou." Tang Huan unknowingly laughed. Brother Tang will definitely not regret it. Ji Jin's charming eyes no longer hid her voice. "Brother Tang, let's not talk about other things. I want to try out this white bridge. Why don't you come with me?" While they were talking, at least a dozen more people got on the white bridge and fell into the lake. My Yingluo was no exception. "Lady Jin, you go first." "All right, Then I'll go first. Watching Ji Ziyu's figure stepping onto the white bridge, Tang Huan's mind raced. I wonder what this so-called lucky chance is? With regards to her possession of the heavenly heartbeat, perhaps Ji Ziyu did not have any other thoughts, but the experts of Tianclan were hard to say. However, even if he didn't have Ji Ziyu's invitation, he still had to go to the Tianclan of the Great Yu State. Of course, he had to do it when he faced a void transformation stage expert. A delicate shout woke Tang Huan up from his stupor. Ji Ziyu had also fallen into the lake. Tang Huan took a light breath, and without further ado, he gave Yu King and the flying boat a hidden glance, then strode to the end of the bridge. This astral bridge was roughly 6 meters wide and arched in the shape of an arch. At the end of the bridge, there were steps leading upwards. From the 9th step onwards, each step was divided into 36 sections. At this moment, Lion Ting and the others were sitting cross-legged on the river bank, recovering from their injuries. In the lake, Ji Jingxiu and the other 2 men were being pushed back by the lake water without any delay. The 2 men couldn't help but scream, but Ji Jingxiu was gritting her teeth as her face turned deathly white. As for the bridge, there were still 4 Yang Calamity cultivators advancing carefully, step by step. Chapter 989-36 Change. It was said that after stepping onto the astral bridge, no matter how strong one's true essence was, it would be impossible to display it. Everyone could only move forward 1 step at a time. On the white bridge, there were countless hidden traps. It was fine to step on the first person, but when the next person stepped on the bridge, it was possible to step on empty air. At this place, he could fall into the lake at any time. As he thought about it, Tang Huan already stepped onto the first step. In that moment, Tang Huan felt a terrifying binding force sweeping over. In that moment, it penetrated into the Danshan and completely imprisoned the true spirit. On the bridge, it was indeed impossible to mobilize even a single strand of true essence. However, when Tang Hua tried to use the 9 Yang Divine Furnace, he was still able to freely circulate it. He could also use the intangible Buddha in the depths of his soul. This meant that Tang Huan's perception ability was not affected at all. Therefore, in the next moment, Tang Huan activated his perception ability to its limits, and carefully probed. The situation on the bridge was constantly changing. The positions of the stations were different, and the times one stepped onto the stairs were different. The situation they sensed was also very different. Following closely behind someone else was definitely not a success. There was nothing to learn from the experiences of others because the situation on the bridge was ever-changing. The experiences from the previous moment could not be applied to the next moment. Even for the same person, stepping onto the astral bridge after falling into the lake would not allow one to draw on past experiences. As long as he fell into the lake, everything would have to start over. If the 36 cultivators wanted to pass through this astral bridge and reach the other side of the lake, they would probably only be able to rely on their own perception ability. Shouts of surprise erupted. A few meters in front of Tang Huan, a cultivator stepped out with his right foot, and a hole immediately appeared on the stairs in front of him. The hole was less than a meter in diameter, and if his hands were to support it, it could have been left on the bridge. Soon after, the hole had been repaired, and the astral bridge rapidly returned to its original state. Tang Huan's heart shivered. He immediately shifted his attention to the other 3 Yang Calamity cultivators, sensing their current situation carefully. Damn, I stepped on the wrong foot. This is bad. In the time it took for a mere 10 breaths, the 3 people in front had completely disappeared. The person furthest away hadn't even reached 10 meters, and one of them directly fell down because he had stopped too long. After reaching the top of the lake, one couldn't stay still for too long. Otherwise, one would also fall into the lake. According to Tang Huan's observation, the time it took to stop should not exceed the span of a single breath. Aside from the stairs at the top of the lake, no matter where one went to the astral bridge, they had to take the next step within this time. Moreover, they had to take the correct step before they could continue to stay on the bridge. Tang Huan had stopped for so long that he did not fall, precisely because he had always been standing on the first step. At the end of the bridge, There were 9 steps leading up to the top of the lake. Tang Huan suddenly realized that the first 9 steps should be safe. No matter how he walked, he would be fine. The real trap would start from the 10th step. Each step encompassed 36 different Torahs, and each small section represented one different Torah. This meant that every time he wanted to take the next step, he would have to face 36 choices. This bridge spanned over a 100-meter lake, and there were many steps leading up to it. Every time, one would have to go through the changes in the 36 oars and find the correct landing point. The difficulty was truly great. A few figures flew past Tang Huan's body, and Yu King and her flying boat were both shocked. Obviously, they had also discovered that the first 9 steps were extremely safe, so their speed was extremely fast. They only came to a stop when they reached the 9th step. The tyrannical and unparalleled perception ability was unleashed to its fullest extent. The 36 different auras and auras on the 10th step were simultaneously captured by Tang Huan and clearly displayed in his mind. Different auras had different rhythms within them. Select one of the aura's fluctuations on the 10th step, look for the aura's fluctuation on the 11th step, and then look for the aura's fluctuation on the 12th step, and so on, and so on and so forth, continuously moving forward. This required a cultivator to possess a powerful perception ability, and also required a high degree of concentration. After all, every single aura fluctuation on the stairs was rather minute, and the rhythm was naturally more difficult to determine. Furthermore, every time he made a choice, he would have to make it within the time of a single breath. It was only for a short period of time, so it was no wonder that the cultivators that tried before all fell into the water. After climbing up to the 9th step, Tang Huan's footsteps paused slightly. He mustered all his strength and jumped to the furthest right of the 10th step. Then another step took him to the furthest left of the 11th step. To a Yin Tribulation cultivator, even if the true essence in their body was completely restrained, they could still easily traverse the 6 meters of space above the white arched bridge with just the strength of their flesh body. However, if he wanted to borrow this power to step onto more stairs, it would be impossible. Cries of surprise rang out from time to time, and unknowingly, only the flying boat remained. Tang Huan leisurely jumped up and down the stairs. In a short 1 to 2 breaths of time, he had already passed by the flying boat. Seeing Tang Huan's carefree look, Ji Zhu was stunned, and forgot to move. A moment later, a hole appeared beneath his feet. He only had enough time to say a single word before the flying boat disappeared from the surface of the white arched bridge. Tang Huan suddenly went straight ahead, and then jumped to the right, and then suddenly jumped to the left, as if it was extremely easy. The reason why he could display this kind of skillful and ordinary state was mainly because of Tang Huan's sharp and powerful perception ability. The existence of 9 Yang divine furnace, intangible Buddha, and even the sculpture of a casting god allowed Tang Huan to gain a unique advantage on the astral bridge. Not long after, Tang Huan had already crossed nearly 20 meters of stairs. The situation on the bridge immediately attracted everyone's attention. The cultivators who wanted to get on the bridge subconsciously stopped. Who is this guy? His speed is so fast. Tang Huan, that gem synthetic master and that weapon refiner? On this heavenly dipper bridge, his advantage is this great. TSK. How powerful is this Tang Huan's perception ability? Shocked cries sounded from all directions as one after another gazes fell onto Tang Huan's body, and the surprise in their eyes actually became more and more intense. Just now, even a cultivator at the peak of the Yang Tribulation realm hadn't walked 10 meters forward when he tried it for the first time. But Tang Huan had immediately increased the distance between them to more than twice. Chapter 990, 5 Elements True Essence. 30 meters, 40 meters. Tang Huan still walked forward step by step, his speed not slowing in the slightest. Damn, this kid is almost at the top of the bridge. Lion Ting's bell-like eyes seemed to bulge out of his eyes as he cried out in shock. Just how strong is this guy's perception ability? The first time he went on the bridge, he walked so far and he didn't even take a single wrong step. Xiang Wenxuan was also shocked and at a loss for words. Tang Huan, Ma Yingliu, who was sitting cross-legged on the shore, opened her eyes. Not far away, the collapsed Ji Jinxiu, who seemed to have gained some sort of power from somewhere, suddenly flipped over and sat up. Not far away, the collapsed Ji Jinxiu, who seemed to have gained some kind of power from nowhere, suddenly turned over and sat up. This, is he trying to succeed on his first try? Yu King, who had just climbed onto the shore, completely forgot about the pain she had just endured in the lake. Her face was full of surprise. Everyone had different expressions on their faces, and their jaws dropped. Not long later, under dozens of astonished gazes, Tang Huan walked past the last step and reached the top of the arched bridge. There would be a stretch of flat road over 10 meters long, and beyond it, there would be many steps leading down to the end of the bridge. However, under the gaze of everyone, Tang Huan, who had just reached the top of the bridge, suddenly stopped in his tracks. But after a short while, Tang Huan was nowhere to be seen on the bridge. Everyone looked down the bridge, and indeed, with a plop, a figure landed in the center of the lake. At the sight of this, sighs could be heard from the bridgehead. Ma Yingluo, Ji Jinhua and the others shook their heads with regret, but more cultivators were secretly relieved. If this calamity cultivator called Tang Huan was able to successfully pass the astral bridge, how could so many Yang tribulation cultivators endure it? Most importantly, the earlier one passed the test of the Heavenly Dipper Bridge, the more abundant the rewards one would gain from entering the inner layer of the Heavenly Dipper realm. Tang Huan had already reached the other side of the lake on the very first day he had entered the Heaven Dipper realm. In this regard, how could everyone's minds be balanced? Tang Huan fell into the water halfway and failed to cross the bridge, which was exactly what many cultivators wanted. However, Tang Huan's previous actions had stimulated everyone, whether it was the cultivators who had yet to ascend the bridge or the people who had recovered. All of them moved, and one figure after another rushed up the Heaven Tier Bridge. In the middle of the lake, Tang Huan was being pushed towards the bridge by the lake water. The moment he fell into the lake, he felt 5 different types of powers assaulting him from all directions. Under the situation where the true spirit was imprisoned, he had no way to stop those powers from invading. A moment later, they passed through 36,000 pores and continuously seeped into his body. That power was like countless densely packed needles, stimulating every bone, every cell, every nerve in his body. At the beginning, Tang Huan also clenched his teeth tightly. He was prepared to bear the intense pain, but very quickly, he realized that the situation he imagined did not happen. What the lake water contained was actually the power of 5 elements. It had the sharpness of metal, the vitality of wood, the gentleness of water, the fierceness of fire, and the density of earth. 5 different types of powers interweave to form a huge net, trapping every part of the cultivator's body within. To cultivators who only cultivated in 1 or 2 types of powers, this was indeed a nightmare that they could not bear. It was no wonder that the moment they fell into the lake, they would scream miserably, wanting to die. However, Tang Huan cultivated the way of heaven and earth 5 elements. After being attacked by the 5 types of powers while fusing with the 5 elements' spiritual fires, not only did he not feel the slightest amount of pain, he also felt as if he was wandering in a hot spring. This lake water actually contains the essence of 5 elements. Tang Huan's mind was greatly shaken. What was accumulated in this lake was definitely not ordinary water, but a liquid that contained the essence of 5 elements. The essence of the 5 elements was an incomparably precious treasure. There was information about this essence of 5 elements in the memories of Yu King, Ji Feizu, Jianfeng, and Tailing, and there were even fragments of this item in Hu Chan's memories. This was because he had obtained a few bottles of it back when he had first entered the ancient Clear Heaven domain. Of course, compared to the little essence of 5 elements that Hu Chan had obtained, the content here was countless times more than normal. Even if a whole lake with a circumference of 50 meters contained only a 10th or even a 1,000% of the true essence of the 5 elements, it would still be extremely shocking. But in actuality, the concentration of true essence of the 5 elements in the lake water was definitely far more than a 10th of what it was. Only a peerless expert like the divine cast Dragon Abyss could make such a huge effort. After the cultivators fell into the lake, even though they were in excruciating pain, their bodies were unconsciously being tempered by the invisible power contained in the true essence of 5 elements. After a year, they might not be able to pass the bridge, but as long as they fell into the lake more than once, they would be able to gain incredible rewards. He really didn't know when he would be lucky. Seeing the cultivators that were falling into the water behind him shrieking miserably, Tang Huan sighed in his heart, feeling so comfortable that he almost couldn't help but moan out loud. In the Lake of Colors, other people were in so much pain that they wanted to die, but Tang Huan was so comfortable that they wanted to die. In this lake, although the true spirit can't be operated, the 9 Yang divine furnace can still be operated. I wonder if it can absorb the essence of 5 elements? The heavenly and earthly treasures that filled the lake made Tang Huan a little envious, and his brain started to think quickly. In the next moment, Tang Huan began his experiment. In between the mind instructs, in a second, the 9 Yang divine furnace moved swiftly according to a strange rhythm. The strong power of the sucking spread in all directions with the body as the center. Very quickly, Tang Huan discovered that the lake water was like a huge whole body, and the difficulty of obtaining the sucking's essence of 5 elements was extremely high. After being pushed more than 10 or 20 meters by the lake water, some of the essence of 5 elements entered his body bit by bit. Following the spiritual meridian into the Danshan's cauldron, the great ultimate spiritual fire seemed to have encountered a hungry wolf that had fresh and juicy fat meat, and suddenly pounced and wrapped around that bit of 5 elements and spirit marrow. This 5 elements and spirit marrow could actually raise a great ultimate spiritual fire. Sensing the situation within the cauldron that had never happened before, Tang Huan was instantly pleasantly surprised. In an instant, he calmed his heart and concentrated, using all of his strength to absorb the true essence of the 5 elements that surrounded him. Plop! The sound of a heavy object falling into the water rang out from time to time. From the white bridge, cultivators kept falling. The furthest they went was only about 10 meters. After entering the lake, the female cultivators desperately clenched their teeth and endured the pain. They couldn't hold it in any longer and snorted a few times. However, the male cultivators didn't hide anything and continued to scream. Within the inner space of this Heaven Dipper realm, all sorts of mournful cries rang out, causing the cultivators who were still walking on the bridges to feel uneasy. Tang Huan was not affected in the slightest by these movements, his eyes slightly closed, as he completely immersed himself within the true essence of 5 elements sucking. Not long later, Tang Huan felt his body touching the shore. Chapter 991, Deducing Spirit Map. Opening his eyes, Tang Huan climbed up to the shore of the lake with a tinge of regret. After shifting several tens of meters in the lake, the little bit of true essence of 5 elements he absorbed had already caused his great ultimate spiritual fire to increase by quite a bit. He actually wanted to stay in the lake for a while longer to absorb some 5 elements' essence, but at this time, if he did not land on his own accord, he would be thrown onto the shore by the energy gushing out of the lake. Fortunately, he had just entered the Heavenly Dipper realm, so there were still many opportunities for him to obtain the essence of the 5 elements of the sucking. Tang Huan calmed himself down and caught sight of the astonished gazes. His situation in the Lake of Colors had long been noticed by the cultivators on the shore. From start to finish, Tang Huan had been too calm. The moment the others fell into the water, they began to wail and scream in pain. Even when they tried their best not to scream out loud, they could tell from their expressions that they were enduring a great deal of pain. But for Tang Huan, not only did he not make a sound, he did not even show a trace of pain on his face. Looking at Tang Huan's expression, it was as if he was enjoying the invasion of the lake water. That's right, it was enjoyment apostrophe. These were the 2 characters that the cultivators on the shore instinctively thought of. Although it was painful for others, it was enjoyable for Tang Huan. How could something so unimaginable happen? Could it be that the 5 elements contained within the lake was unable to invade his body, or that it had no effect whatsoever after entering his body? Junior brother Tang Huan, are you alright? Seeing Tang Huan walking over, My Yingluo could not help but ask. What she said could be said to be a question of the hearts of the people around her. However, before she could finish her sentence, My Yingluo knew that she had asked a useless question. Other people would be half dead when they went ashore, but Tang Huan seemed to be in high spirits, as if nothing had happened. It's nothing, it's nothing. Tang Huan laughed out loud. Senior Sister Yingluo, if you rest well, you might as well go on the bridge and walk around. Even if you fall down, it would do you good to fall down. With that said, Tang Huan stepped onto the white arch bridge with big strides like shooting stars. My Yingluo could not help but shake her head with a wry smile. Of course, she knew that the process of landing from the lake to the shore was a process of body tempering by the lake water. Having to go through this process so many times was definitely beneficial with no drawbacks. She wasn't the only one who knew. Everyone here already knew. But knowing was one thing, whether or not she could bear it was another. Remembering how she had felt in the lake, My Yingluo still felt a lingering fear. However, her steps followed her towards the arch bridge. Is it because of the heavenly heart pearl? She stood up and muttered in a voice that she could only hear, using the heavenly heart pearl as an opportunity. I have comprehended the way of 5 elements of the heaven and earth, and the water in this lake is also using the power of 5 elements. And it seems to be perfectly compatible with the way of 5 elements of the world. Only after a short moment, Ji Ziyu also gracefully walked towards the arch bridge. At this moment, under numerous envious, jealous, shocked gazes, Tang Huan once again climbed the 9th step of the arch bridge. Just when many cultivators thought that Tang Huan would once again quickly rush to the top of the bridge and travel even further, Tang Huan actually sat down cross-legged on the 9th step. His sudden action caused the cultivators at the bridgehead to look at each other in dismay with their heads full of fog. Tang Huan was eyeing the essence of 5 elements within the lake, but he did not plan on falling into the water on purpose to absorb the essence of 5 elements and rush to the top of the bridge. Furthermore, he did not plan on continuing this second attempt so quickly. The smooth journey to the top of the bridge made Tang Huan understand a lot of things. The most common method chosen by cultivators was to investigate the 36 different auras on each step before determining the appropriate landing point for the next step according to the rhythm of the air. However, the more he tried to use this method, the more difficult it would be for him to make the correct judgment. Just like Tang Huan, who suddenly didn't know what to do after stepping onto the final step and reaching the top of the bridge. Although there were no stairs on the flat road at the top of the bridge, it was still divided into sections. Each section was divided into 36 sections like a staircase. Compared to the stairs below, the auras above were even more unpredictable, and the rhythm of each aura was even more difficult to distinguish. At that time, Tang Huan had discovered that the rhythm of 3 different auras was extremely similar to the flight of stairs he was walking on. After a moment of hesitation, Tang Huan fell into the lake. If he continued to try, Tang Huan would definitely fall down again and again, but as time passed, it would definitely allow him to go further and further on the bridge. However, according to Tang Huan's estimations, if they continue to move like this, it would take them at least half a year or so to reach the other side of the lake. If he wanted to shorten the time he spent on the astral bridge to a minimum, he would have to think of another method. Therefore, Tang Huan planned to first deduce the location of the Heaven Tier Bridge. A sharpening knife does not delay the cutting of firewood. If I could figure out the condition of this bridge, the time I would have to spend on this bridge would be greatly reduced. Although there were no patterns on the astral bridge, Tang Huan was certain that this bridge contained an extremely mysterious and miraculous gigantic spirit map. Tang Huan was a weapon refiner, and one that had an extremely strong ability in perception ability and deduction. His ability just so happened to be useful. Ignoring the strange gazes, Tang Huan calmed his mind, closed his eyes and carefully examined the changes to the 36 auras on the 10th level. Time passed bit by bit until Tang Huan finally found out that there was a miraculous connection between the different auras. Unknowingly, complex patterns started to appear in Tang Huan's mind bit by bit. They intertwined and densely packed. Tang Huan's attention extended towards the 11th step as the spirit map in his mind also began to spread. Step by step, Step by step, the spirit map S also became larger and larger. When he arrived at the top of the bridge, Tang Huan had even cast aside the feeling of the oar's undulations and directly used the existing spirit map S to meticulously calculate the amount of spirit map S that the bridge behind them contained. This was definitely a huge project that could not be completed in a short period of time. Tang Huan's body was like a statue as he stood motionlessly on the 9th step. Several figures flashed past on both sides of the bridge. They had failed again and again, and they had tried again and again, allowing the cultivators to travel further and further on the astral bridge. The inner space of this Heaven Dipper realm did not distinguish between day and night. But there were quite a few cultivators who brought with them tools to measure time. About 2 months later, some cultivators finally crossed the last flight of stairs and reached the top of the White Bridge. They had spent 2 months and experienced countless failures to accomplish this feat that Tang Huan had done on his first try. The difference between them could be said to be extremely great. P.S. Friends who want to blow up, please turn back and see what I said last time. There is no need to explain any further. Chapter 992, Flowing Clouds. I finally got to the top of the bridge. It took me 2 months. The difficulty of the later parts of the journey will become increasingly high, and it might even take me 8 to 9 months. It's too difficult to pass that stretch of road. I reached the top of the bridge 5 days ago. But I failed dozens of attempts during these 5 days. I didn't even take a step out of it. What the hell is Tang Huan doing? He actually sat on the 9th step for 2 months. With his speed, if he were to use these 2 months to test it out, he would definitely be able to complete the flat road at the top of the bridge. He's definitely not cultivating. According to my estimations, he's probably deducing the spirit map in this astral bridge apostrophe. Deducing spirit map S? Did he think he was a saint-rank heavenly blacksmith? With his level of cultivation at the in-tribulation realm, he is at most a middle-stage heavenly blacksmith, and the possibility of him being a upper-grade blacksmith is close to 0. With just this bit of tools method attainments, he wants to deduce the strength of the spirit map S on the astral bridge. You truly do not know the limits of the heavens. At the end of the bridge, cultivators who had just finished resting were muttering to themselves from time to time after they had landed on the lake. At the beginning, everyone was surprised by Tang Huan's strange actions. After all, his performance on the bridge that time was too shocking. Got it. However, as time passed, the shock in the hearts of everyone gradually disappeared, and the discussion about Tang Huan became less and less. Hearing the voice that came from the bridge, Tang Huan, who had just opened his eyes, could not help but laugh. In the end, 2 months of time had not been wasted. Remembering the extremely complicated spirit map in his mind, Tang Huan's smile faded, and a hint of shock that was difficult to conceal appeared on his face. Amongst all of the spirit map that Tang Huan had studied carefully before, the spirit map of the astral bridge was definitely the largest, most complex and most profound. Under normal circumstances, even if Tang Huan spent a year, or even 2 years, he might not be able to thoroughly study such a spirit map. But now, Tang Huan only needed 2 months to understand everything like the back of his hand. The biggest contributor to this was the god sculpting statue that was in Tang Huan's soul. The entirety of the heavenly desolate secret realm was the work of the god creation. Naturally, the Heaven Dipper realm was no exception. In the Spirit Cloud mountain range, Tang Huan had broken the spatial seal on the sculpture, and when he was analyzing the spirit map on the astral bridge, the sculpture also gave him a unique advantage. Furthermore, Tang Huan had once obtained a portion of the God Forging Tools method from the sculpture, and the spirit map of the Heaven Wind Bridge was also left behind by the God Crafter, which definitely contained the God Crafter's various understandings towards spirit map. This allowed Tang Huan to quickly find clues from the countless tense lines. Because of this, Tang Huan's deduction of the Arch Bridge's spirit map was able to smoothly continue until it was completely successful. Otherwise, Tang Huan could only be like Lion Pavilion, Xiang Wenjuan and more than 30 other cultivators, and sincerely tried to pass through the bridge using the most formal method. And right now, Tang Huan, who was extremely familiar with the spirit map, completely didn't need to spend that much time like he did. While thinking, Tang Huan had already jumped up. In the past few days, everyone had long gotten used to the figure who was sitting cross-legged on the 9th step like a clay puppet. When they caught sight of Tang Huan suddenly standing up, a cry of surprise came from the direction of the bridge. After a short while, everyone's face was full of surprise, and it was getting thicker and thicker. Not only did Tang Huan stand up, he even stepped onto the 10th step after 2 months of separation. Then, the 11th, 12th, and 13th step. After continuously passing through one flight of stairs, Tang Huan's feet did not even have the slightest pause, as if they were flowing water. The most astonishing thing was that although Tang Huan's movements was extremely fast, from start to finish, it was extremely smooth, as though every step he took was filled with confidence and confidence. Everyone was at a loss for words, their mouths opened wider and wider, causing the area below the bridge to fall into silence instantly. Pairs of eyes stared unblinkingly at Tang Huan's figure. They had already discovered that Tang Huan's performance this time was even more outstanding than last time. Last time when Tang Huan had stepped on the stairs, although he did not make a single mistake, his steps seemed to be rather hurried. But this time, Tang Huan did not panic at all. Compared Tang Huan to the other cultivators on the bridge, the difference in strength was obvious. Unknowingly, Tang Huan had already stepped across the last step and reached the top of the bridge. At this moment, everyone's hearts couldn't help but tighten. This time, would Tang Huan be able to take 1 or 2 more steps forward, or would he fall into the lake like last time? Moments later, everyone's eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. Their eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. Tang Huan did not fall into the lake, and did not only take 1 or 2 steps forward. Instead, he maintained his previous speed and walked quickly on the flat road on top of the bridge, step by step. To Tang Huan, the flat road on top of the bridge was no different from the stairs in front of him. It's a success. On top of the bridge, Xiang Wenxuan took a step forward. He immediately let out a sigh of relief, but no holes had appeared beneath his feet. He had taken the correct step. He had tried this road dozens of times. This time, he had successfully taken the 6th step, which was the furthest he could go. The difficulty of this place far exceeded that of the staircase. Every step he took was as though he was treading on thin ice. From what he could tell, the staircase would take 2 months, and the even shorter path would probably take 3 or even 4 months to pass. It would take at least 8 months to complete the bridge. However, after successfully taking this step, a hint of doubt suddenly appeared in Xiang Wenxuan's eyes even as he was overjoyed. It seemed that the silence behind him had gone too far. However, he did not have much time to think on the astral bridge. With just a thought, he tossed it to the back of his mind and quickly lifted his right foot. However, just as he was about to cross over, a slender black shadow suddenly passed by from the left, and that handsome side of his face was immediately imprinted into his eyes. He was currently the furthest to go on the astral bridge, but now, there was actually someone who had surpassed him. Tang Huan. Xiang Wenxuan's mind shook. He never thought that the one who would surpass him would be the Tang Huan who had been meditating on the 9th step for 2 months. The extreme shock made Xiang Wenxuan forget what he was going to do next. He lifted his right leg into the air, and a hole immediately appeared beneath him. Damn it! A tremendous force pressed his body into the hole in the air. Xiang Wenxuan was jolted awake. He only had time to let out a single curse before he quickly disappeared from the bridge. At that instant, the bridge that had been silent for a while started to emit gasps of astonishment. Following that, an uproar broke out. Do you see that? On the flat road, Tang Huan doesn't hesitate to take even 1 step. Motherfucker. Looking at his movements, could it be that he'll be able to pass the Migres bridge this time? Tang Huan spent 2 months to deduce the spirit map. Impossible. This is no ordinary spirit map, it's the spirit map of the astral bridge. Chapter 993, Forced Palace. Amidst the shocked cries of the crowd, Tang Huan quickly walked past the flat road at the top of the bridge and climbed down the second half of the stairs with the same speed as before. At this time, Tang Huan had already closed his eyes. When the spirit map contained within the astral bridge was grasped by Tang Huan, all the changes within the bridge could not escape Tang Huan's judgment. Even if he didn't use his eyes or stop probing for aura fluctuations, Tang Huan still clearly knew which step he should take next to the 36 steps. It was fortunate that the other 35 cultivators were still behind, and could not see Tang Huan's current situation. Otherwise, they would have been even more shocked. Tang Huan's heart was as calm as water. He stepped with precise steps and lightly leaped up, getting closer and closer to the lakeside. Seems like the first person to successfully pass the astral bridge this time is none other than Tang Huan, who said just now that Tang Huan was ignorant of the profoundness of the Heavenly Gale Bridge's spirit map. If I had the ability, I would be willing to waste this effort. I'm still climbing the stairs here, but he's about to complete the bridge so soon. This is truly a competition of people. It's so infuriating. Reaching the other side in 2 months. This means that he can stay there for a whole 10 months. TSK. After 10 months, just how far can his cultivation go? Yang tribulation? False tribulation? Or is he at the nascent profound realm? Everyone gasped in surprise. As they spoke, they had already subconsciously moved to the sides of the lake, thus preventing Tang Huan's figure from escaping their line of sight. Their eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred. On the first day he entered this Heaven Dipper realm, Tang Huan succeeded in reaching the top of the bridge on his first attempt. After 2 months, there were finally a lot of people that were able to catch up to him. However, he once again headed to the other side of the river. This time, it would be another 5 or 6 months before anyone could catch up to him. At this moment, there were probably many people who wished that they could pull Tang Huan off the bridge. It was a pity that at his point, no one could cause any disturbance to Tang Huan. And even if Tang Huan was still at the bridge, no one would dare to make a move against him. Although they had never personally tried it before, they had a premonition deep within their souls that if they were to make a move, they would be killed by this space. In the inner layer of the Heavenly Dipper realm, all sorts of evil methods were useless. There were also disadvantages, but no benefits. Motherfucker, Lazy has finally given in to him. Lion Ting licked his dry lips as his large eyes were filled with admiration. This guy is probably just a middle-stage heavenly blacksmith. How can his attainments in spirit map be so strong, let alone heaven-stage heavenly blacksmith? Even if it's a saint-ranked heavenly blacksmith, he might not be able to completely understand this astral bridge in 2 months. Right? A middle-aged man laughed bitterly. Junior brother Tang Huan's tools method attainments, has it already reached such a level? Ma Yingliu's beautiful eyes were filled with an unconcealable look of amazement. Tang Huan, Ji Zhenziyu clenched her fists. Her 2 big, black eyes were shining and a touch of admiration emerged on her charming face. Plop. A light but familiar sound came from afar. Everyone was startled. They immediately looked over, only to see that at the end of the arched bridge, there was no trace of Tang Huan, and inside of the colorful lake below, there was an additional person. It was Tang Huan, and at the place where he had landed, was not even a meter away from the shore. He was already at a point where he could touch it. He failed? It's so close to the shore. Is he the last one in the wrong? Everything was going so smoothly in front of us. How could we make a mistake? Everyone was dumbstruck, their faces filled with disbelief. Originally, everyone thought that Tang Huan's attempt this time would be successful, but he actually failed at the very last step, which was why he was inferior to Heaven's will. After a short period of shock, everyone's expressions changed. Some of them just sighed, some of them just shook their heads with regret, some of them just smiled. Under the watch of dozens of gazes, Tang Huan was pushed towards the bridgehead by the lake. Just like the first time Tang Huan tried it, Tang Huan did not scream, nor did he show any expression of pain. After a long while, with an expression of enjoyment, he climbed onto the lakeside. After staying in the lake for such a long time, they had unexpectedly gotten ashore with even more energy and vigor. This made everyone feel even more inconceivable. Nodding towards Mai Huolwo, Ji Ziyu and the others, Tang Huan headed towards the arched bridge in big strides. "Brother Tang, please wait." It was a green-robed man around 40 years old. His body was thin and long, his cheeks were also rather thin, his eyes were slightly sunken, and his expression was somewhat sinister as he said with a smile, as expected, "It was shocking in a single instant." Brother Tang had been quiet for 2 months, but it was enough to broaden our horizons just now. "I'm impressed." "Oh?" And then Tang Huan raised his eyebrows, and said with a smile yet not a smile. The azure-robed man laughed and said, "Brother Tang, this is the second time you've stepped on the astral bridge with your sinister cultivation. This is the second time you've stepped on the astral bridge, and you've walked from the bridge to the end of the bridge in one go. We came from different sects in the Forging God Great World region, and being able to gather here is truly fate." "Brother Tang Huan, do not be stingy." "Brother Tang, please reveal it." "The reward for passing the test of the Dangang Bridge won't decrease because of the number of people you have." "Brother Tang, you don't have to worry. If Brother Tang's skill is able to help me pass the Tangang Bridge, then I'll surely receive great rewards in the future." Upon hearing the green-robed man's words, the eyes of many cultivators lit up as they echoed him. However, they couldn't help but frown. That fellow had evil intentions. This wasn't asking Tang Huan to share his techniques. This was obviously forcing Tang Huan to hand over the techniques he had used to pass the Heaven Tier Bridge. "You do have the skills." Tang Huan's eyes flashed with ridicule, and laughed leisurely. "However, I'm afraid you all do not have any use for it." "Why is that?" The green-robed man squinted his eyes and said in a deep voice. "Which one of you is Heavenly Blacksmith?" Tang Huan said indifferently. "I am." A white-clothed middle-aged man walked out from the crowd, and between his brows appeared a sense of reservation. "Brother Tang Huan, my attainments in spirit map are far inferior to yours, but I am now a upper-grade blacksmith." "Upper-grade blacksmith?" The ridicule in Tang Huan's eyes grew even stronger, and he said, "Can you understand the spirit map I gave you?" The white-clothed middle-aged man's face slightly blushed. "Maybe." "About." "You might be able to understand it, perhaps." "About." "Could it be?" Tang Huan glanced at the white-clothed middle-aged man and scoffed. Then, his body moved, and quickly swam around the empty land at the end of the bridge. Chapter 994, Arrival on the Other Side. Whoosh! Tang Huan's speed became faster and faster, both of his hands danced like butterflies, and in a radius of tens of meters, numerous afterimages constantly flashed and shattered. In a short 10 breaths, Tang Huan had already stopped in his tracks, and in front of him were countless densely packed lines. "This is the spirit map of the astral bridge." Tang Huan shot a sideways glance at the white-robed middle-aged man, then swept his gaze at the green-robed man's group and sneered, "The technique to cross the bridge is here. If you understand it, then you can naturally walk freely on the bridge like I do." "You!" The azure-robed man's eyes instantly turned cold as he became filled with anger. However, Tang Huan no longer paid attention to him. With a slight movement of his feet, he had already brushed past the side of his body and stepped onto the astral bridge, so what he drew couldn't be a complete astral bridge spirit map, but instead a 10th to 20th step. Even if it was just this tiny bit, it was still not something they could comprehend. Being mocked by Tang Huan in such a way, the expressions of everyone around turned ugly, as their gazes landed on the white-clothed middle-aged man one after the other. The spirit map looked like it was made up of countless big and small cobwebs, making their scalps go numb. They could only look forward to it. Ever since the spirit map appeared, the middle-aged man in white robes had been sitting cross-legged on the ground, staring at him. A moment later, the man in white started to mutter to himself. Sweat poured out of his forehead as his face became paler and paler. Even his body was trembling. The man fell to the ground, clutching his head and screaming. Seeing the middle-aged man in white, the surrounding people all looked at each other. They were not shallow people, so they could naturally guess that the reason why the middle-aged man was in such a state was probably because the spirit map that Tang Huan left on the ground had already far exceeded the limit of what he could comprehend. If the weapon refiner were to try to deduce the spirit map unsuccessfully, he would definitely suffer a backlash. After a short while, the white-clothed middle-aged man finally recovered from his shock, and his face was filled with fear. He said with lingering fear in his heart, "The spirit map of this astral bridge is really too complicated. I can't figure it out, let alone me." Even a saint-rank heavenly blacksmith would not necessarily be able to comprehend it. If even a saint-rank heavenly blacksmith can't comprehend it, then how did Tang Huan deduce it? The azure-robed man couldn't help but ask. "Monster." "Tang Huan is a monster," the middle-aged man in white gritted his teeth as he spoke. Everyone exchanged glances and smiled dryly to themselves. If the spirit map-ass who had comprehended the astral bridge could become like Tang Huan, then this kind of technique was indeed something no one could endure. Although the words Tang Huan said before he left were unpleasant to hear, no one doubted that the unpredictable aura of the Heaven Tier Bridge was right there. After the spirit map came out, everyone knew that besides comprehending the spirit map like Tang Huan, there were no other techniques. Plop! A soft voice suddenly rang out. Everyone looked towards the direction of the voice as if they had a conditioned reflex. They saw that a black shadow had appeared near the lakeside. Everyone was stunned. Did Tang Huan fall into the water again? He fell into the water twice in a row. It seems that even if he comprehended this spirit map, he wouldn't be much of a threat. The azure-robed man let out a cold snort, then turned around and strode onto the astral bridge as if he was flying. Quite a few people gathered their emotions and started to act. Let's go. Let's go. There aren't any shortcuts in this astral bridge apostrophe. Everything depends on ourselves. If 2 months doesn't work, then 4 months. If 4 months doesn't work, then 8 months. I refuse to believe that with my Yang Tribulation cultivation base, I won't be able to cross this bridge. The bridge, the water, the bridge, the water. Miserable screams rang out as the crowd continued to try again and again. Tang Huan also did not stop his steps. After being brought back by the lake, he also continued to try, the 3rd time, the 4th time, the 10th time, 20th time, 50th time, the 100th time. Almost every time he tried, Tang Huan would fail at the last step and fall into the lake. At the beginning, many cultivators were ridiculing and gloating, but as the number of times Tang Huan had fallen into the water increased, they could no longer say such things. It was normal to fail once or twice, and it was reasonable to fail a dozen or 20 times. However, to be able to fail at the same location 100 or 200 times in a row was quite abnormal. Even if they were to try their luck with that final step, they would be able to make it once. Furthermore, Tang Huan had already comprehended the spirit map of the astral bridge, so it was impossible for him to succeed in all the first stages, yet he would always fail in the end. There was only one possibility for such a situation to happen, and that was that Tang Huan had been deliberately diving into the water. The lake water contained an incomparable amount of 5 elements, and every time he fell into the lake, he would temper his body. Tang Huan was definitely borrowing the strength of the lake water to temper his body. When others fell into the lake, they felt incomparable pain. When Tang Huan fell into the lake, it was extremely easy. Most importantly, Tang Huan had too much time. Even if he had to spend another 2 months in tempering, he still had 8 months to remain on the other side of the lake, enjoying the benefits of passing the astral bridge trial. Although they understood this point, and everyone could only be envious and jealous, but no one dared to try it like Tang Huan. They did not even have the confidence to successfully pass the astral bridge. How could they dare to waste precious time and deliberately fall into the lake, then enjoy the inhumane torture over and over again? However, what the crowd didn't know was that they were only half right. Tang Huan had indeed fallen into the water intentionally, but his reason for falling into the water was not to temper his body. Tempering the body was only along the way. His main goal was to absorb the essence of his 5 elements and increase the great ultimate spiritual fire. The days passed one by one. Tang Huan fell into the water 200 to 300 times a day as his body became more and more transparent. The great ultimate spiritual fire inside the Danshan furnace also became more and more powerful. Unknowingly, Another month quietly went by. The great ultimate spiritual fire has long since been raised to the limits of what we can currently achieve, and the body has also been tempered to the limits. The essence of 5 elements accumulated in the cauldron is also numerous, so it's about time to cross the bridge. After climbing onto the shore of the lake once again, a satisfied smile surfaced on Tang Huan's face. For such a long period of time, he had taken the initiative to fall into the water, and traversed the entire lake once and once again. Not only did he acquire a large amount of essence of 5 elements, the effect of his body tempering had also far surpassed that of any other cultivator who was forced into the lake. Whoosh! In the next moment, Tang Huan had already rushed up the astral bridge, continuously surpassing all the cultivators on it. When they saw Tang Huan's figure flying past them, the people on the bridge were already numb towards him. They were not surprised at all. Not long after, Tang Huan arrived at the end of the bridge. Just when everyone habitually thought that Tang Huan would fall into the water again, he suddenly took a step forward, walked through the stairs that he had fallen thousands of times, and then went past the 9 steps at the top of the lake, and stepped onto the other side. Chapter 995, 5 Elements Origin Qi. It's over. Tang Huan had actually passed through that step. When they saw this scene, everyone at the bridge was stunned for a moment, before their gazes were filled with envy. Tang Huan was completely capable of crossing the entire astral bridge, and only wanted to see when he would be willing to go over. But now, Tang Huan had finally taken the final step that signified that he had successfully passed the trial. It had only been a short 3 months since he had first entered the inner layer of the Heavenly Dipper realm. This was definitely the fastest record of traversing the astral bridge in history. If not for Tang Huan deliberately delaying him by a month, then what he had set was a record of 2 months passing the examination. Such a record was something that no cultivator could achieve, let alone a previous record. In the future, no one would be able to surpass it. This could be seen from the progress made by the other 35 cultivators on the astral bridge. Now, Xiang Wenjuan, Shi Ting, Ma Yingliu, and Jijin Ziyu, who were the fastest, had not even walked through half of the bridge's flat road. As for the slowest few cultivators, they were still trying their best on the flight of stairs in front of the bridge. This was a normal situation. As for Tang Huan, he was completely abnormal. His cultivation was not the strongest out of everyone here, and was not even in the top 20, but his perception ability and deducing ability was definitely top-notch. However, no one could envy Tang Huan's ability. After all, he was a gem synthetic master and a weapon refiner. After secretly lamenting for a bit, everyone's attention had finally returned to the front of their eyes, while Tang Huan was currently immersed in an extremely profound state of mind. In the instant he rushed down the astral bridge and stepped onto the other side of the lake, Tang Huan felt as if he had been reborn. It was as if his soul and body had underwent a bizarre transformation, as an incomparably relaxed feeling lingered throughout his entire body. At this moment, all of the shackles inside and outside of Tang Huan's body seemed to have been swept away, and the true spirit that was originally locked down after stepping on the bridge also seemed to have been released. This feeling is wonderful. After a long while, Tang Huan finally regained his senses, and sighed in his heart. This place is draining, and any obstacles in the way of cultivation breakthrough, they probably won't exist. As long as one reached a certain level of cultivation, breaking through would naturally happen. There will never be a bottleneck or anything like that. Immediately after, Tang Huan felt a pure energy filling up the surrounding space. This energy was like a lake, and was divided into 5 different types. This should be the 5 elements origin Qi. After passing the astral bridge trial, this process of 5 elements origin Qi, as well as not encountering any bottlenecks in the cultivation breakthrough, would be the reward of the successful. From this point of view, it was true that the earlier one crossed the bridge, the better. If one crossed the bridge earlier, then it meant that they would have more time to cultivate. The more 5 elements origin Qi one absorbs, the greater the harvest. Hurry up! Tang Huan did not hesitate anymore and rushed forward dozens of meters. After leaving the arched bridge, he sat down cross-legged, and then activated the Great Harmony Heavenly Classics. Inside the Danshan, The nine yang divine furnace and the true spirit began to revolve extremely fast, and the terrifying energy of the sucking spread out in all directions. In a split second, a large portion of the five elements origin chi separated itself from the air. Following the guidance of the cauldron, they gathered towards Tang Huan. Red, yellow, green, black and white flowed unceasingly. Each color represented a type of origin chi. Unknowingly, Tang Huan's figure became more and more blurry, and before long, he was completely obscured. In the direction of the astral bridge, the gazes of the numerous cultivators who were originally not intending to pay attention to Tang Huan were, without exception, drawn towards him. Look quickly. 5 elements source energy, that is 5 elements origin chi apostrophe FCK. Other people either absorb one of the fire elemental energy or water elemental source chi level of 5 elements. There's definitely more than one. That is amazing, but what's amazing is that he actually absorbed all of it in one go. I finally know why this guy didn't feel pain after falling into the lake. Back when he was condensing his core, what he comprehended was definitely the way of 5 elements of heaven and earth. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to treat the lake water as if it was nothing, and even more so, absorb all the origin energy of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Didn't they say that those who understand the way of the nature's 5 elements find it difficult to cultivate, and the speed at which their cultivation increased so slow that it made one's hair stand on end? The heavenly desolate secret realm is a place where people can enter even if they are under 50 years old. However, no matter how they look at it, this guy is only around 20 years old, yet his cultivation has already reached the Yin Tribulation realm. Everyone cried out in alarm. It was known throughout the world that the path of 5 elements was extremely difficult to cultivate. The growth of one's cultivation was as slow as a snail. As a result, in the vast forging God great world, it became rarer and rarer for cultivators to walk this cultivation path. But now, Tang Huan's performance had completely overturned everyone's inherent understanding. He had already broken through to the Yin Tribulation realm in his 20s. If such cultivation speed was considered slow, how could he be called fast? Could it be that it was related to his identity as the gem synthetic master and his identity as the weapon refiner? While everyone was still in shock, Ji Jingxiu suddenly clenched her small fist and waved it violently a few times. Her round eyes were shining with excitement. The heavenly core pearl must be because of the heavenly core pearl, which allowed him, who had comprehended the profound way of the heaven and earth, to cultivate so quickly. To be able to absorb all the 5 elements' origin energy, my cultivation must have increased at an extremely fast rate. When I leave the heavenly desolate secret realm, Junior brother Tang Huan's cultivation will definitely surpass mine. It looks like when I return to the sect, my title of first on the heavenly rankings will belong to him. Mai Hua gave a faint smile. At the side, Yu King was silent. After a long while, everyone calmed themselves and continued to climb the bridge. After being provoked by Tang Huan like this once again, they were able to unleash an unprecedented amount of motivation and potential. Failure, attempt, failure, attempt. As the cycle continued, the group walked further and further away from the astral bridge. After a month or so, some cultivators began to climb the stairs at the other end of the bridge. It was Xiang Wenxuan. Another month later, Ji Jingxiu and Mai Yingliuo were the first to reach the top. They passed Xiang Wenxuan, who had been leading the way all this time, and walked down half the flight of stairs. At this time, on the other side of the lake, that ball of Peng Shuo's 5 elements origin chi suddenly surged rapidly, and a wave of extremely yang energy whizzed out like raging waves, instantly filling up all the regions on the lake shore. If Mai Yingliuo and Ji Jingxiu could sense what was going on here, they would immediately know that it was a sign of the coming of the apocalypse. However, in just a few short breaths of time, that extreme yang energy had already disappeared without a trace, and what replaced it was another terrifying energy that was rapidly soaring in power. Chapter 996, False Tribulations. After a long while, that aura finally stopped increasing in strength, and then, it quickly converged. The movement of that five elements origin chi also became smaller and smaller. Everything had returned to normal. Witnessing this scene, everyone had a faint guess in their hearts. After cultivating on the other side of the lake for 2 months, it was very likely that Tang Huan had already stepped into the Yang Tribulation realm. This made everyone feel a sense of urgency. Another month had passed, and after Tang Huan, Ji Ziyu was the second one to step onto the other side of the lake. After all, she was the holy maiden of the Tian clan, and trained in magic. The strength of her soul, other than Tang Huan, there was probably no one else in the Heavenly Dipper realm who could compare to her. With a soul that far surpassed everyone else, her perception ability would definitely surpass other cultivators that cultivated the martial way. Even that white-robed middle-aged man wouldn't be able to compare to her. After crossing the bridge, Ji Jingxiu did not stop and immediately began cultivating. After that, she was wrapped in black and white five elements origin chi, and her slim and graceful body was faintly discernible. A few days later, Ma Yingliu has also successfully passed the test of the astral bridge. After them were Xiang Wenxuan, the white-robed middle-aged man with the status of upper-grade blacksmith, and Shi Ting. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed. The number of cultivators who had passed the astral bridge gradually increased. In the 9th month of the opening of the astral plane, more than 20 cultivators had successfully arrived at the other side of the lake. Among them, 15 were the Yang Calamity cultivators, 5 were the Yin Calamity cultivators. On the other side of the bridge, the Yang Calamity and Yin Calamity cultivators continued to work hard, but the 4 nascent soul cultivators had completely given up. However, they did not stop to climb the bridge. Instead, they rushed to the top of the astral bridge again and again before falling into the lake to temper their bodies with the aid of the lake water. Although he couldn't pass the test, to be able to improve his body to the maximum was definitely worth it. After a few more days, a strange wave of energy suddenly roused everyone from their stupor, and many gazes subconsciously fell upon the group of 5 elements origin chi, which was mixed with the largest of the 5 colors. That aura clearly emitted extremely intense fluctuations, but it gave off an ethereal feeling. Furthermore, the source of the aura seemed to have turned into a deep void. It was clearly just right in front of their eyes, yet it also seemed to be separated by an immeasurable distance. Void tribulation. This is a void tribulation. A cry of alarm rang in the room, and the lion's eyes bulged in shock. He was the first to step into the void tribulation? Tang Huan. What incredible speed. When I first arrived, it was a Yin tribulation, but now it's an empty tribulation. Exclamations of surprise were heard from time to time. Amongst them, there were several who were at the peak of the Yang tribulation, such as a Lion Pavilion and Xiang Wenxuan. Furthermore, they had passed the test very early, so the spectators originally thought that they would be the first to step into the void tribulation. However, before they could even break through, Tang Huan had already broken through. If they were in another region of the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm, they would still have to worry about whether Tang Huan would fail his tribulation. But here, they didn't have to worry about that at all. As long as he reached a certain level of cultivation, it was certain that he would be able to break through. Sure enough, not long after, that strange energy fluctuation disappeared and an incomparably tyrannical energy fluctuation instantly engulfed the entire space. The intensity of the aura increased crazily, and after an instant, it had already reached a level where it could stun people. There are still a few months until the close of the Heavenly Dipper realm. Could he have stepped into the profound realm right here? It shouldn't be very likely. After all, the higher the cultivation, the more time it takes to reach a breakthrough. If there's another half a year, it's possible. It's hard to say. He's a freak that's able to deduce and comprehend the astral bridge spirit map. Everyone looked at each other. As time passed, the Yang Calamity cultivators would step into the realm of virtual tribulation from time to time, such as a Lion Pavilion, Xiang Wenxuan, Ji Jinziyu, Ma Yingliu, and others. Those who had passed the test rapidly increased their cultivation base as they cultivated in the Sage realm. Another few months quietly passed. There were already 30 people who had passed the test, and only 6 remained on the other side of the bridge. Aside from the 4 primal Taoists, there were only 2 Yin tribulation cultivators left, who continued to fall into the lake again and again while screaming miserably, their bodies having been tempered by the lake water for a long time, allowing them to completely adapt to it. Although they still felt unbearable pain, they were still able to endure it. Inside the vigorous 5 elements origin chi, Tang Huan's body was like a sculpture, his heart and mind preoccupied with nothing. After stepping into the realm of illusory tribulation, the speed at which he absorbed and refined 5 elements origin chi had increased drastically once again. This allowed him to feel his own cultivation rising bit by bit at practically every single moment. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. Right at this moment, a loud sound suddenly burst out, shocking the people on both sides of the bridge. The dense white-colored odorous appeared out of thin air, surrounding everyone within. The 1-year time limit had arrived, and the Heavenly Dipper realm was about to close. Everyone's minds moved slightly as they immediately realized this. Intense nostalgia uncontrollably surged out from the bottom of their hearts. This place was simply too suitable for cultivation. If they could stay here forever, then most likely everyone would be able to enter the virtual level in a few more years. But unfortunately, this was obviously impossible. In the next moment, the 36 figures were like giant white cocoons as they were pulled up into the air. In an instant, they had already disappeared from the Heavenly Dipper realm. When everyone's figures appeared once again, they had already arrived on top of a large square platform that was located in the middle of a mountain. On this platform that was about 100 meters in length and width, there were 5 whirlpools moving at high speeds. They were divided into the east, south, west, north and middle regions. At the side of the whirlpool, cultivators were gathering. There were many of them, but people were constantly jumping into one of the whirlpools. When the 36 of them who were originally in the inner layer of the Heavenly Dipper realm appeared, the originally noisy square instantly quieted down. Their gazes were all filled with shock, clearly because of the faint chi radiating from their bodies. Central Desolate City. Tang Huan squinted his eyes, then nodded towards Ma Yingluo and Ji Jinzaiyu, then took the lead and rushed towards the center of the square where the whirlpool was located. On the other hand, Yu King and Yu King followed him, intentionally or unintentionally. Yu King had reached the peak of the Yang tribulation, and Ji Feizu had broken through to the Nihility God stage. Compared to when he had first entered the Heavenly Dipper realm, his cultivation had increased by a whole realm. Whoosh! In a split second, the 3 silhouettes had already disappeared into the depths of the vortex. The other 30-odd people also immediately took action, other than a few who rushed towards the north, south, east and west whirlpools. The majority of the cultivators did the same thing as Tang Huan. Chapter 997, Panic Shopping. The Central Wasteland City was much larger than the Eastern Wasteland City, and it was also much more bustling. The city was filled with many houses and it was already in the rudimentary stages of being a small town in the outside world. What was different from the other cities was that not only were there many small stalls in the city, there were also quite a few shops. These shops were specially opened by some great sects to let people enter the Heavenly Mystery Realm. There were many rare and precious materials and beasts in the secret realm. Opening a shop, one would be able to obtain many valuable items, especially those rare and precious items that were unique to the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm, which were of great use in bringing them back to the sect. Of course, without great power and influence, it was impossible to open such a shop. Now, it was the time when the stalls were the most numerous and the shops were the most lively. The reason was very simple. It was because the Heaven Dipper realm had been closed. All the cultivators that had entered the Heavenly Dipper realm had been sent out, and the vast majority of them had chosen to come to the Central Wasteland City. As a result, in an extremely short period of time, Central Wasteland City had gained a large number of cultivators. Divine Level Stone, Natural Divine Stone, High-Leveled Natural Divine Stone. Those who want it Come and take a look quickly. There are 2 powerful 9 heaven black stone. If you need them, please look for me. I have 6 jade fallen heavenly dragon children. Each of these pills can help a person pass through the Yang tribulation easily. Those that cannot afford it, please leave. From time to time, figures would appear on the teleportation portal in the center of the city. Around the platform, there were rows and rows of small stalls, filled with cultivators. Tang Huan slowly walked back and forth, his heart thumping with excitement. There were simply too many good things in those stalls. In the Yanyang city outside, even in the gem store, natural divine stones were extremely rare. However, although it was not the same everywhere, there were still a lot of them, especially when there were some high-ranking natural divine stone among them. The Heavenly Dipper realm was indeed worthy of being the world within a world that people looked forward to the most. Although the majority of cultivators were not as strong as Tang Huan and the rest who had entered the inner layer, the various treasures they had obtained on the outer layer made Tang Huan a little jealous. By the natural divine stone, buying all kinds of natural divine stone at high prices, a rough voice shouted from afar. Friends who wish to sell natural divine stone, please come to the Spirit Heaven Pavilion. The store was opened by the Lingzhou Sword sect of the Sky region, and it had a fair price. Friends who want to sell natural divine stones, quickly come over. A tall and sturdy man shouted over and over in front of a tall building hundreds of meters away. Although the majority of the cultivators with natural divine stones had not gone over yet, they would definitely not be able to hold on for long. Setting up a stall here was just a test of luck, to see if they could exchange their divine level stone for the object they liked. However, in this heavenly desolate secret realm, there were only a few who needed divine level stone. If no one wanted to buy it, they would have definitely run to the Spirit Firmament Hall. Tang Huan was a little anxious. This chance to obtain a large number of divine level stone would not come if he missed it. In a moment, Tang Huan's body was like a stream of light, quickly shuttling back and forth inside the city, and he quickly disappeared without a trace. After approximately half a quarter of an hour, Tang Huan ran back while carrying a piece of wooden block that was as large as Peng Shao. This wooden block was around 1.5 meters tall and required several people to carry it. After finding an empty space, he casually placed the wooden block on the ground, and Tang Huan started shouting, 5 elements, true essence. A large number of essence of 5 elements were sold, in exchange for natural divine stones. Friends who had natural divine stones came over to take a look. Friends who have natural divine stones, come over and take a look. Under the stimulation of true essence, the sound rolled out like thunder and actually resounded throughout the entire central wasteland city. In front of Tang Huan, the thick wooden block had been hollowed out, and became a huge wooden barrel filled with multicolored liquid. This was the true essence of 5 elements within the inner lakes of the Heavenly Dipper realm. At that time, after the great ultimate spiritual fire had more or less risen in rank, Tang Huan did not stop to fall into the lake. Instead, he spent another 2 days to continue absorbing the essence of 5 elements and fill more than half of the 9 Yang divine furnace to the brim with energy. After separating from the lake, the true essence of the 5 elements was extremely thick. In the following months of cultivation, Tang Huan did not refine the essence of 5 elements, but instead left it in the cauldron. The reason he left earlier was not only to search for the container, but also to pour it out of the Danshan's furnace at a place far from everyone's sight. The true essence of 5 elements? Hearing Tang Huan's call, everyone around was stunned. Subsequently, some of the cultivators looked at each other in dismay with doubt in their eyes. It was obvious that they did not know what the true essence of 5 elements was, while others had faces full of disbelief. Did I hear wrongly? That person has a large amount of 5 elements as essence. He must be deliberately trying to be mysterious. Is he joking with such a huge barrel of 5 elements essence? 5 elements essence. This kind of good thing, where did he find it? Amidst the surprised shouts, they immediately surrounded Tang Huan. Isn't that Tang Huan? In front of a booth 100 meters away, a black-clothed man around 30 years old spoke with some surprise. At the side, Xiang Wenxuan frowned and muttered in disbelief. How did he manage to get the essence of 5 elements out of the lake? The two exchanged looks of surprise. Although very few people talked about it within the Heavenly Dipper realm, many people actually knew about the extremely dense essence of 5 elements that was contained within the lake. After Xiang Wenxuan had gotten used to the pain of being invaded by an invisible force, he had attempted to collect the true essence of 5 elements. In the end, without any surprises, it all ended in failure, and the entire lake's surface was like a gigantic block of water. It simply could not be separated from the true essence of 5 elements. But now, this kind of completely impossible situation had happened right in front of his eyes. Tang Huan actually obtained such a huge barrel of 5 elements essence. Let's go take a look. The two of them quickly moved. He can even bring out the essence of 5 elements in the inner layer of Heavenly Dipper realm, and such a large amount of essence of 5 elements at that. Nearby the teleportation platform, Ji Jinzhiyu covered her cherry lips with her eyes wide open. Her beautiful eyes that were like limpid autumn water were filled with disbelief, but she couldn't help but walk towards Tang Huan. In this area, there were many cultivators like Xiang Wenxuan and Ji Jin who had come out from the inner layer of the Heavenly Dipper realm. Other people were fine, but at most they were shocked by Tang Huan's good luck, but they who knew what had happened were completely shocked by Tang Huan's methods. Not long after, Tang Huan and his huge wooden barrel were completely surrounded. Friend, is this really the essence of 5 elements? Don't use fake goods to deceive us. His eyes were wide opened as he stared at Tang Huan with an unfriendly gaze. When he glanced at the thick and colorful liquid in the wooden barrel, he did not hide his suspicion at all. This bald brute was actually the guy who was shouting in front of the Spirit Firmament Hall about buying the natural divine stone. Chapter 998. Are we very familiar with each other? Fake? Tang Huan glanced at the bald strong man. A ridiculing look flashed past his eyes. He was too lazy to refute. In the next moment, Tang Huan's right hand slapped the edge of the barrel. After a moment, the true essence of the 5 elements within the barrel began to churn violently like boiling water, and an incomparably dense chi swept out in all directions like stormy waves. In the time it took a flick of a finger, it had already filled the space within a radius of a few hundred meters. What a dense aura of 5 elements! This is definitely the essence of the 5 elements. Those who claim that it's fake can get lost. TSK, so many essence of 5 elements. Shouts of surprise rose and fell from the surroundings. The facts proved themselves clearly. The originally suspicious cultivators, after sensing the powerful aura of the 5 elements, firmly believed in it. Then, their hearts began to stir. In the inner lake of the Heavenly Dipper realm, one could only passively use the power of the essence of 5 elements to temper the body. This was clearly because it was restricted by the laws of the world in that small world, but there were no such restrictions in other places. To cultivators whose cultivations were not lower than the Yin tribulation, refining the essence of 5 elements would greatly increase one's body's ability to communicate with the forces of heaven and earth. Even if one's cultivation had already stepped into virtual level, as long as there was sufficient essence of 5 elements, it would still be able to bring about such an effect. Relatively speaking, such a large barrel of true essence of 5 elements could completely be called a huge volume. He really didn't know how this fellow managed to get his hands on it. He actually dared to sell it openly just like that, so he wasn't afraid of being robbed. This brother, how do you plan on using the essence of 5 elements to exchange for the natural divine stone? In his hand, he was holding onto a black stone. Judging from his chi, it should be a low-level natural divine stone. Half a kilogram of 5 elements essence, 1 low-ranked natural divine stone, 1 kilogram of 5 elements essence, 1 middle-ranked natural divine stone, 2 kilograms of 1 high-ranked natural divine stone. Tang Huan said with a smile. Half a kilogram. The middle-aged man was a bit hesitant, but after a short moment, he gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, I'll trade." This is a low-level natural divine stone. Give me half a kilogram of 5 elements true essence. The price that Tang Huan offered wasn't really that high, but the essence of the five elements was simply too rare. Although natural divine stone s were also quite rare, they were actually quite common when compared to the essence of five elements. Wait. Tang Huan was about to nod his head, when a loud shout came out. A handsome, slender man dressed in white stepped out from the crowd. It was Xiang Wenxuan, from Ling Zhao Sword Sect. Although Tang Huan had never spoken to him before when they were inside the Heaven Dipper realm, he could still be considered to be an old acquaintance. He slowly said, "Brother Xiang, what can I do for you?" "Brother Tang, name a price. I want this barrel of five elements essence." Xiang Wenxuan looked at Tang Huan with a smile on his face, his tone saying that there was no room for doubt. Hearing his words, the surrounding crowd instantly burst into a clamor, and everyone seemed rather dissatisfied. "If you can afford it, I can give it all to you." Tang Huan raised his eyebrows and smiled indifferently. "This barrel of five elements essence must be more than 2,000 kilograms. I won't take into account the number of bits, but if you bring 1,000 high-leveled natural divine stone or other similar tier natural divine stone here, this barrel of five elements essence will be yours." "This is impossible." Xiang Wenxuan frowned and said in a deep voice, "In this heavenly desolate secret realm, there is no one who can take out this many natural divine stone." "Brother Tang, I can give you a portion of the natural divine stone, and the other portion will be replaced with all sorts of other precious heavenly resources. What do you think?" Tang Huan squinted. "My essence of five elements can only be exchanged for natural divine stone, precious iron or can too. If you can only take out a portion of the natural divine stone, then I will give you the true essence of five elements that is of equal value. As for the other true essence of five elements, I can only feel embarrassed." "Brother Tang, are you really unwilling to give me even this little bit of face? I am a successor disciple of the Ling Zhao Sword Sect. When I return, I will definitely be able to go a step further. Moreover, my brother is one of the 8 great young sects of the Sword faction. Giving me this face will make me a friend of Xiang Wenxuan. I believe that this will bring you quite a bit of benefits in the future." Brother Tang, the young sect of the Ling Zhao Sword Sect was the successor to the position of Sword Sect Master in the future. Are we very familiar with each other? Why should I give you face? Based on your younger brother, a disciple of the Ling Zhao Sword Sect and one of the 8 great young masters of the Ling Zhao Sword Sect? Without waiting for Xiang Wenxuan to finish speaking, Tang Huan laughed coldly. "Brother Xiang, you think too highly of yourself. If you want the essence of five elements, then bring the natural divine stone over." "How many natural divine stones do you have? I can give you the corresponding essence of five elements. If not, please forgive me for not accompanying you." Under the gazes of everyone present, Xiang Wenxuan's face alternated between green and red from being ridiculed by Tang Huan. He looked extremely embarrassed and angry. "Impudent! How dare you underestimate my Ling Zhao Sword Sect? Die for me!" Just at this time, a thunderous shout suddenly reverberated across the sky and earth. The bald strong man's face was sinister, as though he was a fiend. He shot towards Tang Huan. Xiang Wenxuan's lips moved slightly, as if he wanted to call Qinlai out, but no sound came out. He seemed to be suppressing himself. Kai. At this time, the sharp sound of something tearing through the air could be heard. In the bald strong man's hand, the short axe raised high, suddenly swung out. A wave of extremely large black blade light roared out. In an instant, it seemed as though it cut through the air, and appeared right in front of Tang Huan. In that instant, even the sky and earth darkened. The surrounding light seemed to have been sucked in by the black blade light created by the giant axe. There seemed to be nothing else in their line of sight, only the black light. "Ho!" The corner of Tang Huan's mouth raised, as though he was ridiculing Su Yun. He raised his right hand and immediately threw out a punch, taking it lightly. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. An instant later, the black light directly struck Tang Huan's fist, causing a loud explosion in the air. However, the image of Tang Huan's fist and even his entire arm seemed to have been sliced apart did not appear. Following the gushing out of his fist, a huge mass of true essence gushed out, and the black light instantly shattered. dissipating into nothingness. A fist image that was as large as a millstone swept past the side of the axe like a hot knife through butter, and imprinted itself onto the chest of the bald muscular man. Bam! Without the slightest delay, the bald man's burly body was sent flying. His clothes were turned into dust, and his sturdy chest deflated at a speed that could be seen with the naked eye. Before he even landed, blood mixed with minced meat spurted out of his mouth like a fountain. Chapter 999, Instant Killer. Plop. After a split second, the bald brute was already dozens of meters away with his axe in hand. His eyes were wide open and his pupils were empty. Not only did his body not move, even his life force had completely disappeared. The bald brute was dead. Although there were no injuries on the surface of his body, Tang Huan's punch earlier had not only crushed his internal organs, it had also destroyed his true spirit, the latter being especially fatal. At this moment, the entire area had fallen into a deathly silence. The surrounding crowd was completely silent, their hearts inexplicably shocked. Judging from the aura of the bald brute, it was obvious that he was a Yang Tribulation Realm expert. However, this man surnamed Tang didn't even use his weapon and had killed him with a single punch. Where did this guy come from? How could he be so powerful? Tang Huan. At the edge of the crowd, shock flashed deep within Ji Jinzayu's beautiful eyes. Tang Huan had already restrained her aura, but from Tang Huan's attack just now, she could vaguely deduce that Tang Huan's cultivation had almost reached the peak of the Void Tribulation realm, and the strength that Tang Huan had revealed was definitely above that. Currently, not many people in the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm were his match. Even if it was her, if she did not use that final trump card, she would not be able to contend against Tang Huan. This fellow's cultivation and strength were rising too fast. When he first entered the Heavenly Desolate Secret Realm, he was only at the Essence Condensation Realm. When he first entered the Heavenly Dipper Realm, he was only at the Yin Tribulation Realm. But now, he had reached the peak of the Void Tribulation. Tang Huan, how dare you kill him? After a brief moment of shock, Xiang Wenxuan regained his senses and was immediately filled with both shock and anger. The bald man's name was Tai Wei, and he came from the Lingzhou sword sect with Xiang Wenxuan. Although they did not know each other well, they were familiar with each other as well. When he had made his move just now, Xiang Wenxuan had wanted to stop him. After all, it was very likely that Tang Huan had already reached the peak of the Void Tribulation. However, when the words came to the mouth, he changed his mind, thinking that it would be good to let Tai Wei test Tang Huan's strength. However, he did not expect Tang Huan to be so terrifying the moment he attacked, and instantly killed Tai Wei with the force of a thunderbolt, leaving him completely unable to save him. He is Tang Huan? Upon hearing Xiang Wenxuan's words, many people in the surrounding area revealed looks of surprise. They suddenly remembered that last year, there was a guy called Tang Huan. Because he had the dual identity of gem synthetic master and weapon refiner, and was spread around the Middle Desolate City for a while, but Tang Huan had disappeared without a trace, causing everyone to think that he had met with mishap, which was why people mentioned about him less and less. He never thought that his reappearance in the Central Wasteland City would not only bring about a large amount of true essence of the five elements, but also display such shocking strength. Those who kill will always be killed. Tang Huan laughed coldly. If you want to take revenge for him, then come over. When the bald strong man attacked, he already gave birth to killing intent towards Tang Huan. Since that was the case, Tang Huan naturally did not have to be lenient towards him. Killing it would be a good example to make. There were definitely many who coveted the true essence of five elements like the bald man did. With his previous example, these people would also have some misgivings. Xiang Wenxuan's expression was dark and uncertain. He and Tai Wei were both born in the Lingzhou sword sect, and now that Tai Wei had been killed in front of him, if he didn't give Tai Wei justice, he would definitely lose all face within the sect. After all, Tang Huan's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Void Tribulation realm and he had only barely reached the peak of the Void Tribulation realm. Furthermore, the strength that Tang Huan had just displayed had caused his heart to feel extremely fearful. If he failed to take revenge and lost the battle instead, That would be even more humiliating. Brother Xiang, we don't want to interfere with the enmity between you and Tang Huan. However, if you want to seek revenge on Tang Huan's behalf, please do so after we've concluded the deal with Tang Huan. No matter what you want to do, it has nothing to do with us. The speaker was a young man wearing a green robe, and he looked very dry. The moment he finished speaking, the surrounding cultivators with natural divine stone immediately agreed. When they looked at Xiang Wenxuan, their eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. Once they started to fight, Tang Huan would definitely keep the barrel of essence of 5 elements. It would be fine if Tang Huan won, but if he fled after being defeated, it would be very troublesome. It was very likely that everyone would lose the opportunity to obtain the essence of 5 elements. So it's Brother Hu Ji. Xiang Wenxuan looked at the green-robed man, then turned to look at Tang Huan with a dark face, his tone becoming cold like ice. Tang Huan, on Hu Ji's account, I will let you off this time, but on today's matter, my Ling Zhao sword sect will definitely not let this matter go anytime. How could Tang Huan not see that he was just a donkey? The corner of his mouth raised into a mocking smile. At this time, Tang Huan was too lazy to continue entangling himself with Xiang Wenxuan. It wouldn't be too late to play around with him after the deal was done here. Feeling the ridicule in Tang Huan's smile, Xiang Wenxuan only felt his face burning. With a cold snort, he brought the bald brute's corpse along and left. Friend, let's continue. Tang Huan's gaze turned towards the middle-aged man who was the first to find him for trade. He reached out his hand and grabbed the barrel with a smile, and a small ball of 5 elements essence the size of an egg was absorbed by his true essence. Although Tang Huan had never weighed it before, it should be exactly half a kilogram in weight. The middle-aged man immediately caught it and wrapped it with his true essence. He gently weighed it in his hand and immediately became excited as he threw the lower-grade divine stone over to Tang Huan. In a moment of time, Tang Huan summoned his space aircraft and sucked it in. Brother Tang, I have 1 high-level divine level stone, 3 middle-level divine level stone, in exchange for 5 kilograms of 5 elements essence. The green-robed man named Hu Ji immediately spoke up, and 4 natural divine stones flashed out from his spatial ring, shining resplendently. Alright, connect the 5 kilograms of 5 elements essence well. Tang Huan smiled in satisfaction after sensing the 4 pellets Hu Ji had placed on the ground, and then grabbed 5 kilograms of 5 elements essence out of the barrel. Brother Tang Huan, I have 6 low-level natural divine stone and 2 mid-level natural divine stone. Brother Tang, quickly look over here, quickly look over here. I have several extremely rare iron ore here. How much 5 elements essence can they exchange for? Sigh, if I knew that the natural divine stone could be exchanged for the essence of 5 elements, I would have sold those 2 natural divine stone to Spirit Firmament Hall yesterday. More and more figures gathered in the surroundings as clamorous and noisy shouts continuously rang out. The barrel of true essence of the 5 elements caused the entire central wasteland city to go crazy. Chapter 1000 I'll let you die first. After about an hour, there were finally no longer any cultivators who came over to exchange the natural divine stone for the essence of 5 elements. At this time, Tang Huan still had about 30% of his remaining 5 elements essence in the barrel, and the number of natural divine stone he was trading for, from low to high, was already close to 2,000. There were also 5 muddy sky divine iron and more than 10 other precious iron ore of similar quality. Brother Tang, there are almost no natural divine stone left in this middle desolate city. Why don't we use this essence of 5 elements and trade it for something else? A young man couldn't help but suggest. Those who received the true essence of 5 elements had long since left, and the cultivators who surrounded them were all cultivators who did not have any natural divine stone but were also extremely envious of the true essence of 5 elements. Tang Huan was only trading for natural divine stone s, which made them extremely depressed in the bottom of their hearts. That's right, Brother Tang Huan. You exchanged 1 to 2,000 natural divine stone of all ranks. It's already completely sufficient. I have 10 limitless spirit fruits. Its value is definitely above a high-level natural divine stone. How about you exchange it for 2 kilograms of 5 elements essence, Brother Tang? It's better if you change them all. Leaving behind these essence of 5 elements would actually bring about more trouble for you. Everyone began to clamor, their eyes filled with fervor. Not now, not in the future. There were none in the central wasteland city, but not necessarily none in the other 4. Moreover, there is still a long wait to go before the heavenly desolate secret realm closes. If it's about to leave, there's still the true essence of the 5 elements left, and then we can exchange for other things. Everyone, I'm sorry. Tang Huan laughed indifferently, with a thought. The space aircraft had already sucked the barrel in, and then quickly shrank and burrowed into his chest. He cupped his hands towards the crowd, and Tang Huan walked over quickly. Seeing Tang Huan's figure disappear into the distance, although everyone was extremely angry, they could do nothing about it. If Tang Huan was weak, there would have been countless people ready to take action and rob him. But seeing Tang Huan's strength just now, the majority of the people here were no match for him. Since the robbery was unsuccessful and there was nothing to be gained, the crowd could only shake their heads and sigh helplessly. However, there were still many cultivators whose eyes flickered with a murderous light. With Tang Huan's current perception ability, he could easily detect the large amount of malicious intent in the gazes behind him, but he did not take it to heart. Even without the dragon seal, he had no fear of anyone in this heavenly desolate secret realm. Brother Tang. Not long after he got out of the crowd, a delicate voice sounded. Immediately after, a figure appeared in front of him. It was the saint daughter of the Tian clan, Ji Jinju. Her smile was like a flower's, charming and enchanting. So it's the young lady from the brocade? Tang Huan was a little surprised. He had long noticed her presence, but did not know why she would suddenly look for him. Brother Tang, be careful. Ji Jinxiu smiled sweetly. I just saw Xiang Wenxuan teamed up with Sun Shizong and Liu Shuichuan. I think they'll join forces to deal with you. Sun Shizong, Liu Shuichuan? Tang Huan frowned, somewhat puzzled. Seeing Tang Huan's expression, Ji Jinxiu knew that this was probably the first time he had heard these words, and immediately rolled her eyes speechlessly. In the heavenly Dipper realm, Sun Shizong and Liu Shuichuan were the first to issue a challenge to you and force you to hand over your bridging skills. It's them. Tang Huan suddenly came to a realization as the figures of a green-robed man and a white-robed middle-aged man flashed past his mind. Before the two of them had passed through the astral bridge, they were both at the peak of the Yang tribulation. Now, they were definitely in the same realm as Xiang Wenxuan, someone who had entered the realm of hollow tribulation long ago. Suddenly, Tang Huan cupped his hands and smiled. Thank you, Lady Jinxiu. You're welcome. Be careful. Hopefully, I'll see you in Taizu Heaven Man Mountain in the future. Jinxiu smiled sweetly and left with a wave of her hand. The so-called Heaven Man Mountain was the Tian clan's encampment in Taizu. It was originally a nameless small hill, and because the Tian clan had moved there, it was well known. 3 emptiness realm experts. The corners of Tang Huan's lips curled up as he smiled sinisterly, and continued to walk forward. He did not hide within the city, nor did he use the ability Yin and Yang Void method, heavenly invisibility. He directly swaggered out of Central Wasteland City. The speed of the interception was even faster than Tang Huan had expected. Moreover, the people who came weren't just the 3 people mentioned by Ji Jinxiu, Xiang Wenxuan, Sun Shizong, or Liu Shuichuan. They were 6 people. Aside from the 3 of them, there were also 3 other fellows that Tang Huan had met before in the Heavenly Dipper realm, but he could not find their names on them. Judging from the fluctuations in their auras, they were slightly below Xiang Wenxuan and the others. However, they had already stepped into the realm of illusory tribulation. Not long after Tang Huan left the city, 6 people suddenly appeared and surrounded him. They activated the weapons in their hands, causing the light to explode and emitting a shocking might. In addition, Xiang Wenxuan's group of 6 had only just appeared. There were still many cultivators hiding in the shadows even further away. Brother Xiang, you're really impatient. Looking around, Tang Huan couldn't help but laugh. He naturally knew why they had appeared in such a hurry to intercept him. It was obvious that they were worried that he would slip away or that some other cultivator would beat them to it. After all, his space aircraft still had several hundred kilograms of 5 elements essence remaining, and this was still a rather large number. Cut the crap. The green-robed man called Sun Shizong sneered. Tang Huan, hand the space aircraft over and we can give you a quick death. Otherwise what? Tang Huan smiled slowly. Otherwise, I can only give you a painful death. Sun Shizong laughed sinisterly and said sinisterly, unfortunately, I don't want to die in such a miserable way. Therefore, I can only let you die first. Tang Huan let out a faint sigh, a little bit of pity appearing in her eyes. Let us die first. Laughter instantly filled the air. Even Xiang Wenxuan, who had experienced Tang Huan's strength before, could not help but laugh involuntarily, his face full of ridicule. It was true that he was not confident he could defeat Tang Huan alone, but now, there were 6 emptiness realm experts surrounding Tang Huan. Sun Shizong and Liu Shuichuan's cultivations were about the same as his. 6 against 1, Tang Huan was unable to escape. But in the next moment, the laughter of Xiang Wenxuan and the others came to a screeching halt as a grave expression appeared on their faces at the same time. At this moment, the middle stage divine armament absolute Yang scarlet scale sword appeared in Tang Huan's hand in a flash. As it trembled, the enormous sword released trillions of rays of bright red light, and a terrifying aura pervaded the air. Soon after, a dark red flame whizzed out of the sword, and a terrifying heat swept in all directions. Wherever it passed, the space was dyed red with blood, and the area within a 100-meter radius, including Xiang Wenxuan's group, was covered.